It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Monday, April the 22nd. Good morning. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. The Minnesota Timberwolves had a hell of a weekend. Way to go, T-Wolves. Starting strong. Candace Wheeler showed up today covered in mosquito bites. I'm not sure what's going on. Did you just roll around in a field all weekend? What's going on with you?
You know, I don't know. I thought it was too early, but apparently not.
Guess not. Wow. Well, you're taking the hit for the team, and we appreciate that. Candace is the hand in the off commercial that doesn't have the spray on it. If you remember back in all those years ago. So
100 years ago, yeah.
So you want to be with Candace out in the wild. That way you don't get bites. She attracts all of them. So thank you for that, Candace.
It's really weird. I mean, I truly thought it was too early, but I've been sleeping with my windows open. I wonder if that's why.
Yeah.
But I haven't been outside a ton, so I just don't really understand.
Could be spiders in your bed. That's pretty common in the spring.
Are
Found
you
a couple
serious?
of those bad boys. Yeah, one crawled right out from my pillowcase.
Oh, well, that's
Just
lovely.
gave it an old flick.
Oh.
Oh, boy. All right.
I hope not.
We're off
I
and
don't
running.
know. Maybe. I don't know. But I know what a mosquito bite is. You know, like this.
Yeah.
That's what they feel like. But I don't know. Are spider bites the same?
No.
Are they itchy?
No,
Yeah.
they can be itchy. They're itchy. They're the painful kind of itchy. It's like, if you haven't flossed in a while and then you go floss a piece of gum and then all of a sudden you're like, it itches and it hurts. Yeah, it's
Well,
like that.
this spider was all up on me then. If it was just one spider, like, get a life, dude.
No, I think it's the mosquitoes. I'm sticking to your original theory. Zepp, how's the weekend? Anything worth mentioning?
A big costume party, a lot of fresh air, a lot of fun. Smoked a bunch of pot.
Costume party for real?
Yeah.
Did you? And were
Yeah.
you in costume?
No, I wasn't. I was just one of those a-hole observers that didn't participate.
Yeah.
You know that guy? Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
that guy. I don't dress up anymore.
That's okay. I always thought the British did it better. They don't call them costume parties. They call them fancy dress parties. That sounds more fun and festive, really.
Yeah.
Oh, fancy
nice.
dress. Our dear friend Tony Lee, we've had a few people on Facebook in different areas asking what's up with Tony. We haven't heard his voice in a while. Tony had a health issue that took him by surprise. He wanted me to tell you he does have the strength of 10 men. He is okay now. He will even be better. And as soon as he gets that green flag back from the docks, he is back in studio. He is eagerly awaiting that as much as we are. We miss you, Tony, and we love you, and we're very excited to have you back as soon as it makes sense. But, as we've all been saying to Tony, dude, just chill. Kick back. Get better. Do what they tell you to do. Don't rush back. So we'll get Tony back as soon as Tony is cleared to be back, and then all will be well with the KQ Morning Show. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the new inductees are up. That's always kind of
That's a
interesting,
thing.
I guess. Sure.
It's a thing.
That's always a thing.
know.
But it's nice. I mean, it's as much as like I'm the worst. Okay, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to me, it's just like the Olympics. I sit there and go, I don't care, and then it happens, and I'm like, oh, I care.
Same. All the way.
We looked over, we saw the people that were nominees, and now in a minute we'll share with you the inductees. And yes, we can all talk about how it's the problems we may have with it or the problems other artists may have with it. But at the end of the day, this year's class, especially to me, a few people got in that I felt great about. I was like, you know what? When you see an overlooked, iconic rock performer get his due way after the fact, it does make me feel good for the artists involved. And so, again, I sit here and say it's no big deal. It doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. And then I recognize, well, it depends on who you are. The context is everything. So we got some good news to share in a few minutes about that. I do believe some very, very strong staples of the KQ playlist will be honored at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year.
All right. We're getting to that here at 6:17. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line, 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It's Monday, April 22nd. Happy Ozzy Osbourne is going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Day, Candace Wheeler.
Yeah, we all knew that.
We all knew
awesome.
that. The Rock has announced this year's class. Ozzy Osbourne elected on his first nomination as a solo artist. He's been eligible since 2005, so it took 19 years for them to get around. Ozzy said, of course, he's already in as a member of Black Sabbath. Ozzy said, my solo career has been a much larger part of my overall music career as a whole, so this feels more special. I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels this way. That's pretty great. So Ozzy in, long overdue, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, big shakeup a few years ago when Jan Wenner was shown the door, and I think that is why you're seeing a lot of things different over at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Jan Wenner ruled that place with an iron fist. A guy who couldn't play a C chord if his life depended on it was apparently the biggest roadblock for a lot of great bands and a lot of great artists not getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like it. Foreigner talks about their beef with him, or a manager having a beef with him that goes back over 20 years, where he apparently, according to Mick Jones of Foreigner, said something to the effect of, you guys, as long as I'm alive, you'll never get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. First year, Jan is shown the door. Foreigner is nominated and headed into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that's how that works.
It certainly makes sense. 80 million albums sold. Listen, that's a ton of records. That's a ton of records.
Yeah.
19 certified gold and platinum records. 22 songs in the Billboard Hot 100 chart. 22 singles to chart.
Yeah.
It does make perfect sense that Foreigner would be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It doesn't make sense that it's not until 2024. But for the guys in the band, for Lou Gramm and Mick Jones and the rest, it is a great day. Like I said, Jan Wenner and other gatekeepers, music critics have always sort of snubbed their nose at Foreigner. The most common thing is similarly what you would hear when people would talk about Led Zeppelin dismissively in the 80s. They'd go, well, the band's great, but I just don't like the lyrics. And at some point, it's like, oh, get over yourself.
By the way, Lou Gramm and Mick Jones in the Songwriting Hall of Fame. They've been in for years, maybe more than a decade. Lou Gramm, I thought, really summed it up. And Steve, you brought this up to me before the show. Really summed up why Foreigner's contribution perfectly here.
I think that at the time that Foreigner came out, there was somewhat of a dry spell in good, solid rock and roll. We came out at the end of the disco era, and I think between Boston and ourselves and a couple other bands, Cheap Trick eventually, Bryan Adams, we single-handedly brought good, strong rock and roll back to the top 10 in the countdowns.
Hits, I mean, Foreigner, I remember when Foreigner 4 came out. I remember when Head Games came out. That was, right up there with the Mellencamp albums when they started coming out, American Fool and It was, you had to have it, and it was chock full of hits, and that's all you heard on the radio all summer long.
I mean, those records would have found an audience with just rock fans. There's no question about it. But to his point, disco was running the charts. New Wave was every critic's favorite new darling. The Cars and Blondie were tearing up the charts. What was missing was just some straight rock and roll music, and they did bring that back. So kudos to them. Your entire list of nominees for performers anyway. Mary J. Blige. I'm not familiar with her music enough to say one thing or the other, although I know every singer I know thinks that she is beyond reproach. So, sure, give it to her.
I love her.
I'm like you, Steve, but I do know this. While not purposefully avoiding Mary J. Blige's music, her name has come up 1,000 times in my life. So, I mean, if you're crossing over and getting into my radar, then you're doing something.
Well, I mean, I know a lot of people who sing for a living, both artists and then just like in Nashville, Tennessee, people whose lives are spent in studios doing backup vocals, for other records. And I'm just telling you, amongst singers, she is top shelf. She's Mount Rushmore. Cher, on her first nomination, going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Hater.
I don't hate Cher. I really don't hate Cher. In fact, I find her honestly very entertaining over the years. I grew up with my mom loved the Sonny and Cher show, and then all the Oscars and the singles and the outrageousness and the nakedness and the sheer costumes. What's not to love about Cher? But if we're talking about music Hall of Fames, I don't know if she has the artistic street cred, for me personally.
Right.
I mean,
all I know, this is
what
how
did she write? Did she write a song?
I don't think so. I know that she's so big that I know who Bob Mackie is. Bob Mackie designed all those dresses she would wear in the 70s.
All right.
And that was a name you'd hear. Oh, another Bob Mackie classic. And I'm like, well,
perhaps in the Red Carpet Hall of Fame then. But I'm not gonna grouse about Cher too much.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like I don't think that they have all this credit like to be like a music Hall of Fame. Like rock and roll and music is different. Rock and roll is like a spectacle.
An attitude.
Sure. Yeah.
A chip on your shoulder. Cher has personified that. You know, Candace, I'm going to go with the gimme. It's Monday morning. I'm easing in. Cher. It is.
Dave Matthews Band, second nomination, won the fan vote in. That makes perfect sense. Now, I mean, they live in their own universe. The DMB is its own corner of the room. Right. Good organization, wonderful people. So I say cheers to them. Foreigner in, Peter Frampton on his first nomination. Again, you got to be kidding me. He has never been nominated before and that is great news because talk about a deserving artist, but also a wonderful dude. That would be Peter Frampton. He went on Instagram yesterday and wrote, "This is something I never expected. I'm overwhelmed that I will be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, especially alongside so many incredible artists who've gone before me. I can't thank everyone enough for voting for me. Somebody pinch me, please." See, that's great. That's awesome. He's that excited about it. Yeah. Because he was just here a couple weeks ago. Peter Frampton still tours. He still plays great shows. He's still Peter Frampton. But, in the grand scheme of things, he's been, remember Peter Frampton for a long time. So this is a richly deserved and far overdue award for him. Kool and the Gang going in on the first nomination. I'll get behind that.
Yeah, since the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is what it is, you can't exclude a band like Kool and the Gang.
Kool and the Gang and Heart were my first two concerts. They're both in the Hall of Fame. I feel good about that. Yeah. Just saying, I'm trying. Let me think. What was my third concert? I don't even remember.
To be honest with you, of all the bands that have been nominated and artists that actually inducted this year, Ozzy, and then probably Kool and the Gang right there that I would go see live today, buy a ticket. Foreigner, it's just because now that Mick's out of the band and having some health problems, Lou's been out of it for a number of years. Sure, am I going to go to a Foreigner show? Absolutely, on my free ticket from KQ92. But Kool and the Gang and Ozzy, I'm buying a new shirt.
I'm down with you on that one. I would go see Kool and the Gang in a second. The Musical Excellence Award is given to artists, musicians, songwriters, and producers whose originality and influence creating music have had a dramatic impact on music. Jimmy Buffett, who's of course no longer with us.
No, they're not. What is this thing now? I've only heard about it the last few years. It's sort of like you're in, but you're not in. You're at the little kids table.
Well, I think it's a thing. Like, so the MC5 nominated 6 times. It's like saying, look, you guys aren't a household name. You don't mean enough on your own, but we know that to other artists, you're hugely important. So we'll put you at the kids' table. We'll put you at the kids' table.
I would rather not go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Listen to me, with my artistic background and my catalog of hits. But it just seems like a bit of a slight, doesn't it? I don't know. I like that you said Jimmy Buffett doesn't care. He's dead.
It's a little strange. I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame trying to save some face. Jimmy Buffett was never nominated while he was alive. Yeah. And again, it's insane. Look at his career. I first saw Jimmy Buffett in 1986. And he wasn't on my radar at all. I went with a friend at a ticket, like, yeah, sure, beats doing nothing. And I just stood there in an outdoor amphitheater with 12,000 people with birds on their heads going, what in the hell is happening? I was I heard Cheeseburger in Paradise and Margaritaville, and that's all I knew. And I was like, oh, okay, I clearly not paying much attention to this. And he was still that guy. Jimmy Buffett was never not Jimmy Buffett in all capital letters.
Right, exactly. If you hold it up to the Cher test, Jimmy Buffett isn't an entertainer to the quality of Cher. Yeah, and he actually wrote some of his own tunes. But anyway, I'm not, like I said, gonna die on that hill. But
artists who did not get in: Lenny Kravitz, Mariah Carey, Sinead O'Connor. I thought Sinead was going to get in. I thought they would look at that similarly and go, oh, well, she just died last year. You know, these things have a way of working themselves out. But no, Oasis, Sade, Jane's Addiction, Eric B. and Rakim, all nominated, none inducted. I love that Oasis did not get in just because I can't wait to hear what Liam Gallagher has to say today about it.
That was the one I wanted to see get in the most, only for that reason. But yeah, that's still going to be very quotable, and they'll get in. I mean, I think some of these bands like Jane's Addiction and Oasis go in.
Eventually, sure.
You just can't have too inflated a class. Somebody has to wait until next year.
I agree with that. I think you're right. They will get in. So to recap, we're all thrilled about Ozzy. We're all thrilled about Foreigner. We're all feeling pretty good about Kool and the Gang. Peter Frampton. Candace is cool with Cher. I couldn't care less. Zepp's ready to draw battle lines. Cher was number one in the Billboard charts the day I was born with I Got You, Babe. So there's a special place in her heart for me.
All right. Well, then we'll settle with that. I'll jump on the Cher wagon with you guys.
We got him, boys.
Us gypsies, tramps, and thieves will drive on to your sports and music history. And Mike Evans has that Hollywood report coming. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Monday, April 22nd. Right now, perfectly good time for the Mike Evans Hollywood Report.
Hey, good morning, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Good morning, Tony, the lovely Candace, Zepp, Steve. You my man. How you doing today? Hope everybody had a great weekend. So I want to sort of dissect the box office this past weekend. And if you're going to a movie, you know the only place to go is, of course, Marcus Theaters. Civil War came in number one with $10.5 million, but it was on 4,000 screens across the country. Number two, Godzilla vs. Kong, and it did $9.9 million, but it was only on 3,700 screens. Now that brings us to the number three, number four positioned movies in the box office this past weekend, which happened to be the two movies I reviewed Friday. And I gave each of them 4 stars. Well, check it out. Coming in number 3, Abigail. $9.6 million. Could have been number 2. It was only on 3,400 screens. And The Ministry of the Ungentlemanly Warfare was number 4. It was right there, too, at $9.2 million. It was only on 2,800 screens. But it was on at Marcus Theaters, and so was number 3, Abigail. I really strongly recommend you go see those movies. And by the way, don't forget tomorrow, Tuesday, $6 for any movies. And I'm telling you, those 2 movies are really, really good. Some TV news. I warned you the tracker on CBS was good sometimes, but also really, really corny other times. Really hit and miss. Well, here's another warning. Also on CBS is Elsbeth. This is a cheap, poorly written, poorly acted Columbo ripoff. And believe me, the star, Carrie Preston, is no Peter Falk. The first show I thought cute, interesting, but the outcome and getting there very predictable. And then the rest of the first season, as I watched, even more predictable. It's all the same. You could read the entire plot of every show, every episode, the first 5 minutes. But here's the most amazing thing about Elsbeth. It's been renewed for a second season, which is a lot bigger surprise than anything you're going to see on the show. You know, I've always thought Jennifer Aniston was a hottie. I mean, really. But she's had some work done. Looks like cheek implants, maybe a nose bob. I don't know exactly what, but man, I like Jennifer Aniston's natural beauty a lot better than she's appearing now. Personal comment, the first sports athlete I ever interviewed when I started in this business when I was 17 was the quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams, Roman Gabriel. The first and only Filipino quarterback to ever play in the NFL. He was the most valuable player one year. Just a great, great guy. Roman Gabriel died over the weekend at the age of 84. May he rest in peace. Have a great day. We'll do it again tomorrow. Mike Evans, see ya.
Mike Evans, Hollywood Report. No word on whether Roman Gabriel had a touch-up at any point in his life.
Yeah, a nose bob. I've never heard of the nose bob.
God.
Yeah, I mean, would she look worse with wrinkles? She was getting old. She's lost it.
It's also her face. It's just her life.
Although, to be fair, she did come out charging hard against people in Hollywood getting facelifts years ago. Said she'd never get one.
Well, then we don't know that she did.
No,
and I can tell you this right now. I'm not about to Google it to find out because I couldn't possibly care less. Got nothing to do with me. You know whose face I'm worried about?
I was Googling it, but I accidentally typed in Rachel instead of Jennifer Aniston. I'm so dumb.
Oh, that's okay. You know whose face I'm concerned with? Mine.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, come on, man. Just gotta get a little chin tuck, maybe. I got the droopy eyes thing going. I'm gonna get some work done. You guys will never see it coming. I'm just gonna walk in one day and be like, hello. It's going to be like cabaret night around here when I come in with a plastered Carol Channing smile on my face. Yeah. Do I look younger?
Ew.
I'm sorry. I just
Gary.
I know. I did see a guy over the weekend in New York because he's not a celebrity. I don't mind talking about him. But it was a guy who's probably my age, and he had clearly just had everything pulled back. And I was like, dude, what happened? It's okay. Just let it go. Yeah. You're a guy. You're a dude. And he wasn't like dressed like he wasn't a stylish dude otherwise. But he had clearly just decided he needed to have somebody bring a sander to his face and pull it back. These things happen. Let's look back. Oh my goodness! On this day in 1954, Daniel Biasone saved basketball. Who is he? Well, he was the owner and founder of the Syracuse Nationals, who would later become the Philadelphia 76ers. And what did Daniel do to save basketball? He concocted this bizarre idea called the 24-second shot clock. Before that clock, there were NBA games where the final score was like 19-18. People would just hold the ball and not let anyone shoot. He came up with 24 seconds because he divided the number of seconds in a 48-minute game, which is 2,880, and then the average number of shots from a game from the previous 3 seasons, which was 120. What is 2880 divided by 120? 24 seconds. Boom. The league has never looked back. Truly changed basketball just overnight. Suddenly, we had a game worth watching. Thank you, Daniel.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. Good Monday morning, April 22nd. For anybody listening to the show the last few weeks, you've been wondering what's up with Tony Lee. Our Rock'em Sock'em robot Tony had an unexpected health issue. It was a bit of a surprise, but Tony wants you to know, and this is a quote, I have the strength of 10 men, and I'm okay. And I miss our listener family so much. I'll be back as soon as I get the green flag from doctors. I think he actually said checkered flag. I think he meant to say green flag. Yeah. Whatever. The point is...
Not the checkered flag. As in the end of the illness and the...
Right. Well, that's okay. That's a very good point. Yeah. Either way.
I contend it's his hair. Now, you've gotten to know Tony really well in the last year or so, but remember, Candace, when he had that long, flowing, black, curly hair down to his shoulders? He was a Samson.
I've seen photos, and every time I think it's a wig.
No, he would wear a wig with his 80s gear, and when he would go out on the boat or whatever for the 80s flashback cruises out in the mist. But but he used to have that hair for real. It was like Samson, but then he turned into a family man. Then he met a woman who cut his hair, and I'm just saying. No, Tony, we love you, brother, and more than excited to have you back. We're excited for you to be healthy again.
Very good point. That's exactly the case. So Tony will be back when he is ready, and we look very forward to that day. There's an article in health.com, so you know it's got to make sense. But it talks about how men and women sense things differently, like literally like the senses, your 5 main senses. And it will not come as a surprise to anybody that, there are some radical differences. Women tend to have the advantage where the senses are concerned.
Oh, yeah.
It seems to me that there's an advantage. Let's talk about sight. Women see more color.
God, they see everything. Oh, color. I thought you meant behavior.
A study in 2012 found that women see more shades of red, green, yellow, and blue.
All right. I'm going to bring that up next time. She goes, which one do you like? Do you like the blue or the off blue or the powder blue or like it's all just pick a blue, baby.
Having seen The Devil Wears Prada many times, I'll be happy to go right into that. This cerulean blue, you think it's just... I'll give the Meryl Streep speech anytime.
Right.
Men are also more likely to have some form of color blindness. I know this. My wife and I have had conversations going back over 30 years about paint color. Let's paint an accent wall.
Sure.
Let's paint an accent wall in the baby's room. Okay. Which one of these do you like? And I look at 3 pieces of paper that have the same color on them. I'm like, I don't know. This one's taupe. That one's a little less taupe, and that one's a little more taupe. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. They all look like clay to me. We found one color in the 90s in our first condo that we lived together in. We were going to paint it, and she found a color called gourmet mushroom.
Oh.
And it was great. Nice. Yeah, gourmet mushroom. And we used it everywhere. And it really was awesome. It was one of those colors, whatever you hung on the wall, it worked well with. It was like a perfectly adaptable. It's neutral enough where if you were going to sell the place, the realtor wouldn't go, you've got to paint this wall. I can't sell it. It was perfect. And we had it in a condo. We had it in a house. We had it in another house. We used it in like 3 places we lived. So much so that, of course, we just called it Gorman mushroom. But eventually that ran its course. But that's the only time we ever were totally in agreement about a color making sense. Yeah. Because just 2 months ago, we painted a couple of accent walls at our place here in Minneapolis. And she brought in like 5 of those swatches you get at the paint store and said, do any of these jump out at you? And I'm like, okay, first of all, we've had this conversation 100 times. It's a 2x2 inch piece of paper. I'm not going to know what that looks like on a whole wall.
Imagination, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. Does it get lighter or darker as it dries? I will never remember. But all the colors were so close to each other. And I finally said, how many times do we have to go through this? Please pick it. Please just tell me. Yeah. I'll paint it. I don't care. I'm just... You could bring me 3 of these colors, and I could put them all next to each other, and they'd have to be on the wall, striped and dried before I would notice a difference. So anyway, I fully agree this is true.
Yeah, I remember, as far as the painting, just like you, I'm like, yeah, it looks great, fantastic. Let's get the rollers out and get this done. When I got divorced, moved out of my own, bought a little condo, I'm like, I'm going to paint this sucker. This is going to be awesome. The kitchen was Patriot blue. The bathroom was black. I think I did something reddish. I don't know. Pink. It turned out to be kind of a pinkish, a salmon or something like that, which I did not like, but it looked different in the store. I contend they may have mixed it wrong. Anyway, I'm going to move on. Anyway, after it was all said and done, I went, now this is how you paint. 4 days later, it was sensory overload. I was like, this has all got to go. This is this is obnoxious. It's stupid. I can't have anyone over here really without walking in and going, oh my God. So yeah, all right, I'll trust you with this. So they've got to jump on us with colors. Candace, I imagine women win all of these.
Oh, of course. Candace, are you a painter? Do you like to paint walls and stuff?
No.
No.
No, someone can do that for me.
Yeah.
But do you like picking out colors?
I imagine wild colors, crazy colors.
I don't know. I mean, I fantasize about having my own, house one day and doing that kind of stuff. Like, that'd be fun. But I don't think I'll be too particular about it.
Yeah, just flying the flag of every guy's favorite girl yet again.
I just want to paint my whole interior black anyway. So
there you go.
Because you wear black on the outside because black is what you feel on the inside. We know, Candace. You say Ozzy, but it's really all about Morrissey. We know your real game. KQ talking text line 651-989-ROCK. If you want to give us a shout about anything under the sun, feel free. Number 2 on the list of senses women have the jump on. Most women have a finer sense of touch. It's all about the size of your fingers. A study showed smaller fingertips tend to be more sensitive. And, of course, men, we all have big sausage fingers because we just have bigger hands and bigger fingers. Yeah. So a woman's touch is far more sensitive. I mean, again, it's just this makes sense. I'm not surprised to hear it. I kind of would hope that would be the case, only because there are times when I have sensitive fingertips. We all do. But, I mean, this is what I know. When I touch a hot plate, a hot pan, the reaction is a little longer than when Rosemary does. I do know that. She'll be like, hey, and I'll be like, oh, that's a little, hey. There's just enough to where I get a burn and she doesn't. So that makes sense. That totally checks out.
Yeah.
Candace, fingertips feel sensitive, extra sensitive, or I see you staring at them right now.
Overall, I am quite sensitive, but I have never noticed with the fingertips.
Okay, very good. Very good. Women are better at hearing noises with high pitches. High-pitched noises women hear. As they get older, women don't hear low pitches as well as men. However, men are 5 times more likely to suffer hearing loss at some point in their life, and I would say 80% of that is fake and just trying to get out of stuff.
At what point do you just quit listening? My dad's has some significant hearing loss now. Of course, he has these state-of-the-art hearing aids. They're just so tiny. They put them in there. You don't even know they're in there, and they must, I think, work fantastically, but he will not put them into. I'm like, Dad, when you're just around us, when the family's together, I get it if it's just you and Mom, but if the family's together, let's put them in. And you know what he says? He goes, I'm like, you can't hear me, can you?
Yeah, right.
He just laughs at everything.
Yeah.
You literally look at him and, Dad, you have a big booger sticking out of your nose. I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, no, hearing loss. You're right. That comes, there's just that point where I remember being in a relationship where you hear it come from the other room. Brian, whatever it was. And there's a pause where you think, am I going to respond? Should I respond? I'm going to make this worse with my initial reaction. And then you hear it again. Yeah. And then you hear it again and you just decide, I'm not hearing it anymore.
Yeah, if I'm if I'm in a loud car, or especially like if I'm on a plane, Rosemary and I had a weekend getaway. If she is to my left, I don't hear a word she says. My left ear works fine in a normal setting, but it's the first thing to go in a loud restaurant or a bar or at a gig, especially.
Yeah.
On a plane, we're getting on the day. She goes, let me go in first. I want to sit on that window. I said, okay, but you're going to the. I'm not going to hear a word you tell me. If you're on that window, that means I'm to your right. I'm not going to hear a thing you have to say. And she looks at me for a second and goes, okay, I still want the window. I was like, all right, cool. So we're not talking for 2 hours. Got it. All right. Because it's just that's how that goes. Candace, do we have a caller right now?
Sean from Prior Lake.
Sean from Prior Lake. Good morning, sir.
Hey, how you guys doing this morning?
Great, brother. What do you got for us?
Hey, not too much. Hey, I heard you guys talking about paint color, and I will say that probably the most popular thing out there in the last few years is in a color called agreeable gray.
I love it. You know this how? Are you in the paint industry?
No, I actually work in the construction industry.
Okay.
Yeah, commercial, residential, everybody seems to go with it.
I'm looking at it right now. Neutral paint colors, agreeable gray. Isn't that nice?
That is nice.
Look at that.
That's... just creating marital bliss, one shade of gray at a time.
Man, we can live a perfectly neutral life with agreeable gray.
Yeah, that's as soon as the marriage can get to agreeable gray, that honeymoon phase is fantastic, isn't it? But the quicker you can get to agreeable gray, I think the longer you're going to last, the better shot you have.
How about disagreeable dandelion?
No, that's a roller coaster. It's fun, that's right. But it's going to crash.
That's exactly what it is. Well, that's great. Thanks for the tip. Disagreeable gray, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, brother, for the call.
Agreeable gray.
Agreeable. Sorry, I already did it. Disagreeable gray. Listen to me. I wonder if there's going to be an offshoot of like marital couples therapy that involves what color are the rooms in your house, like as a place to start trying to put the pieces back together. Have you seen agreeable gray?
Right.
Women have a better sense of smell. Women have almost 50% more neurons in the part of the brain that helps distinguish between odors. Evolutionary, the scientists believe this is an evolutionary development that has to do with picking a mate.
Yeah, but you would think that
Yowza.
You would think less smell would help them when it comes to men. I mean, right? I don't know, but yeah, sorry, ladies, on this one, because I feel like we won on this one, especially in a modern society, especially in the city or whatever. It's just stinky all the time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't get away with anything as a kid. I light a candle and get yelled at. Paint one toenail, and I'm gonna get yelled at from down the hall.
Oh, really? yeah. Couldn't elude the sniff detector.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm constantly walking in a place going, "What reeks in here?" Immediately, I go to my armpit. Not me. Okay, what is it? But yeah, I can't track these things down. I did lose a significant amount of smell. I'm convinced with that whole COVID thing. I got it a couple of times.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I don't think it's ever really come back. And if I have to give a sense,
yep.
Yeah, I mean, I love smelling my coffee in the morning. You know, I walk past what are those crabapple trees that are in bloom right now? Yeah. You stop and you just take it in. But if I've got to give a sense, it's going to be smell.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I was a kid, I used to smell everything. I just had a thing. If you handed me anything like a guitar pick or a Coke, what's that smell like? I just had this little thing always. I've kind of gotten past it for the most part, but I don't know what it comes from. I don't have like some funny punchline, but I used to always everything had to pass a smell test. Like if you handed me, have you heard this Eagles Hotel California? I'd be like, no, let me see that album. And I'd just immediately take a quick whiff for some reason. So women see more colors. Women have a finer sense of touch. Women are better at hearing noises that are high pitched. Women have a better sense of smell. Let's just wrap it all up with women have stronger palates. Oh. Yes, more taste buds on the tongues of our women. They're usually better at distinguishing between things that are bitter, sour, and sweet. I have a friend, when I was touring in a band, Stereophonics, the touring guitarist, Scott James, his mom was a taste tester for a food company. She had such a refined, insanely advanced palate that she could take one bite of food and tell you every ingredient that was used in that. You know what I mean? And it would overwhelm her. And he had that same ability where he didn't do it professionally, but he would order food and he would say, this can't have any garlic in it. And they'd be like, we don't use garlic. And he'd say, but you can't prepare it in a pan that previously had garlic.
Whoa.
And the first time I heard him say that, the first time I heard him say that, I was like, is this like a bit? Like, what's happening? And he would explain it. And then he said, no, it's absolutely true. I like that. I have to have I cannot, if garlic has come within 100 yards of anything I'm going to eat, he goes, all I will taste is garlic for the next 3 days.
Again, it starts to sound like a burden. I don't think we want our senses working at peak.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right? Senses working overtime. I believe that's the XTC chestnut from back in
right in the middle somewhere, right there.
Man, yeah, no. I always felt bad for him because he would take a bite of certain things and just be like, "Oh no, that's way too much onion," and I'd be like, "I don't taste any onion at all, actually." That's not a good way to go through life.
Yeah, no, I'll get that too. Here, try this. Do you taste that? What is that in there? Is that a lavender or a vanilla bean? And I'm like, I don't know. It's good, but I don't. Yeah. Kind of tastes like ice cream to me. All right.
Real quick. I just got a text. My buddy Kevin Rose down in Louisville. He listens to the show a lot in the mornings.
Hey, Kev.
He has a great podcast, Bourbon Turntable. He's a bourbon man, and he said the woman's palate thing is a big deal in the whiskey industry.
All right. So now that I'm glad you brought that up. We were just going to bolt here, but we've been on time all morning. That wasn't going to last. We knew that. But the whiskey thing, because I'll read something about, it's got charcoal and it's got a little bit of a dark chocolate in there and some sage. I don't know. I'm making stuff up now. And I taste it and I go, that burns. It's good. I like it. It's kind of smooth. But I'll give that to Maria and she'll say, that's dark chocolate and it's got like an almond and it's obviously been aged in a charcoal barrel. And I'm like, that's good. People can taste that. I thought that was just a bunch of BS people were making up. No. What's the name of the podcast? I like Bourbon Podcast.
It's Bourbon Turntable, Whiskey and Music.
Wow.
Pretty great.
I'm in love.
Yeah.
I want to give him a big hug, that Kev. All right, we're going to get along. You talk about smell. One of the things that people judge when they come into our home, we're talking about judging when you walk into someone else's home. Oh, man. I'm thinking about some of my bachelor pads right now. And easily the most shocking story that you're going to hear all week. We have a story coming up. It's the one you're going to be talking about with your friends going, no. That's coming up here before the bottom of the hour. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line, 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. Minnesota Timberwolves just brought the whooping stick out on the Phoenix Suns on Saturday. I was watching that game at an Irish pub in New York City, which is where God intended us to watch playoff basketball. And, man, was it fun watching that game. A lot of naysayers, a lot of people thinking the Wolves were outmatched because of that final regular season blowout to the hands of those Phoenix Suns, but they were just rope-a-doping. Man, the T-Wolves rope-a-dope the Suns, something fierce. Got ourselves a series right there. I think the Wolves are in pretty good shape. We just heard U2's still haven't found what I'm looking for. We got a little something for you. If you're wondering what people are looking for when they come visit you, they're looking for reasons to judge you harshly. When you go to someone's house, you immediately start to judge, even without realizing you're doing it. Everybody does this. A new survey, people studying this sort of thing, the average person judges you and makes up their mind about how you live within 26 seconds of entering your home. 26 seconds, that's all it takes to make a few judgments about the way you live your life. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say, first things first, if it's the first few weeks in a new place, it doesn't matter. You're still unpacking. You're still trying to figure out where stuff should go. If it's the first year after bringing a baby home, all bets are off. Nothing matters. You know, you bring that baby home, and then one day you look up and you're like, "Oh, I don't have a single clean piece of clothing. Oops, got to get on that." Things just go off awful haywire. But people do judge everything about our homes, whether we would like to admit that or not. First and foremost, the top thing on the list is the smell of your home. And you know, it's oftentimes where you walk into someone's house and you look at the person and you're like, you don't smell that? And the answer is no, they don't, because of sensory adaptation. It's a big scientific way for saying you just get used to your own funk. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, more than any other sense, our sense of smell tones down our own orders. They say basically when you're at home, the smell of your house is all around you. It never goes away. It's not just repeated. You're literally like swimming in it, so you become adapted to that smell. Yeah. Being able to detect smells is important. In the old days, it was very important to detect approaching danger. Like, say, I don't know, a tiger is coming near me, or there's poison in my goblet of wine, you know, and so you have to learn how to detect those things. But
you have a taster for the wine, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, but once you've decided against drinking the poison wine, or once you get used to a smell and recognize it's not a threat, your brain moves on to find new smells. It literally stops paying attention to the smell you've gotten used to. That's why the crazy cat lady doesn't smell all the cat litter and cat pee, because she's used to it. As hard as that is to imagine.
She's crazy, yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, but the parasite is, infected her brain. Also, conversely, when a house smells too fragrant, like when you're walking into a mall perfume store or something like that, it's just potpourri everywhere. It's pungent.
Yeah, you got to wonder what they're trying to cover up so desperately. Right, exactly.
Yeah, you're trying way too hard, so I don't like that.
I remember very clearly the first time I was I'd been on the road for a while, been away from home for a couple months, and I walked back in, and right away I could smell like cat in my own home. And I was like, what in the, like I'd been away long enough where my brain had stopped paying attention to that smell. So it was like a new smell. And I said to, I'm like, hey guys, what's up with these litter boxes? And they all looked at me like, what are you talking about? And that was like a real moment of, okay, we've got to be very, very vigilant, because we have a house of cat and we're not even aware of it. And man, it really, like from that day forward, I was like, okay, it's just part of my daily regimen. I'm scooping, I'm freshening that litter, I'm keeping windows open. I could not stand the idea that somebody walked into our house, and we only had at the time one cat, and I was like, this is ridiculous. This house should not smell like that 9-pound animal in the corner.
I remember moving into an apartment. Immediately when I walk in, I'm like, oh, they had a cat in here. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, we cleaned the carpet. You'll get used to it. That's what the apartment, because it was a pretty scuzzy apartment building. And I went, okay, well, what'd you say, $350 a month? I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cover that up with pot smell, and then, of course, incense.
My first house I lived in Atlanta, there was 4 of us, and our rent was $450. So that was a $112.50 per man per month. And I remember thinking, like, I could probably panhandle that. I can get that bunch of nickels and dimes.
That's plasma. That's just a trip or two down to the plasma center.
Never occurred to me. It would have been so much easier if I'd realized that.
That was my gas money. The plasma center down on Lake Street. You walk down there, $40 they give you for a bag full of plasma. You walk back, and suddenly you had some petrol for the car.
Man, could have used that back in the day. But that was a house that at the time, this is 1987, and even then it was like that's really, for the size of the house and everything, it was really cheap. And not one but two bands used it also for rehearsal. We did notice, there are several holes in the floor. Like, just different parts of the house, you'd look in the middle of this wood floor, and there's just a chunk missing, and you could look straight down to the crawl space, just like dirt underneath, and you'd be like, I wonder if 450 is actually the bargain we thought it was. Probably not. Right. The next thing people judge you by is just the simple amount of clutter. Not normally a big problem with me. When I'm by myself, the first thing I do, I keep such a neat and tidy, clutter-free space when I'm alone. I was reminded of that when I came to Minneapolis a little over a year ago. The first month and a half, 2 months I was in town, Rosemary wasn't here, and there wasn't a lot of stuff in our place. But what was there was put away at all times. I'm just like, I just keep a very neat, clean space, and it's not that my wife is messy at all, but it's just I just don't feel the need to do that as much when she's there, when the kids are there. It's more like, well, stuff's just, there's more of us. It's going to get a little messy. I'm not going to be so, but man, left to my own devices, everything's got a place. Every place has a thing. Just keep it all clear, man.
Yeah, not so much me.
No.
I'm just kind of a take it off and set it where, I walk in, I set that there. That's where I'm always losing things. And then clothes, it starts with a sock at the door. Socks at the door probably, and ends with underwear halfway down the hall, So I'm slipping into the sweat shorts for the afternoon or whatever. So, I'm not good with clutter, but
we had our 30-plus year argument yesterday after we returned home. When I get home from a trip, the first thing I want to do is unpack that suitcase and put everything away.
What?
Yeah. First thing.
Psychopath?
Yes, because if you don't do it then, you won't do it for 3 days.
Yeah.
It's got to be done immediately or it will linger forever. And and my wife's happy to have that linger. And man, we got in yesterday and it's like, oh, we're back. Got this, want to do this. We probably need to go to the grocery store. And I'm like, hang on. And I'm like lugging that suitcase upstairs. And she's like, seriously? And I'm like, how long have you known me? This is what's going to happen. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, see, and I have my own space for that reason, so my own room. And I think it was 3 weeks ago I last used my carry-on. A few weeks ago. The suitcase is still in there, open, and I take all the dirty clothes out. They go into the laundry, but there's still a couple of pairs of socks, and I believe a T-shirt in there, and that I'll wander back. When I'm out of socks, I'll go, aha! The piece of luggage laying next to the dresser, still in there.
That's my point.
All ready to pack for the next trip.
Exactly. It's one of those things. It's like, if you don't do it soon, you won't do it, and that's all there is to it.
You're not wrong, but I just, I get really lazy about packing and unpacking.
Mm-hmm. I always overpack. If I'm going away for one night, I will pack 3 shirts. And it's not because I just think, well, I'm going to feel differently about something at the time. I just like to be prepared.
Could spill some coffee or something.
Exactly. You just never know. It's also just easier. You don't have to make such a huge decision. You can just three of everything for an overnight stay, and then you're going to be covered no matter what happens unexpectedly.
All right.
Because I'm checking a bag anyway. I hate nothing more than putting the little rolling suitcase on the overhead bin. I'm checking that bad boy. I will take my chances at baggage claim.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I can't stand get the smaller or mid-sized suitcase and then trying to cram it in over top. It drives me nuts. Just sit down in your seat, put your seatbelt on, look out the window, and have like a purse. That's fine. I have my doctor's bag. It's got my books, my glasses, my headphones. Mm-hmm. That's all I need.
Oh no, I bring as much on the plane as I can. I'm not waiting for my bag or bag change. I gotta get the heck out of there after. I cannot wait for my bag. No way.
I like to go out of town with. Of course, now this has backfired on me many times, but without any bags. Just my wallet, my wallet, my phone. And then I just I'll change clothes as I go. But that just would be for the weekend. Like I'm not changing underwear and socks for the weekend. I'm not going to change my shirt for the weekend. I brought deodorant along. Just whap one more smack of deodorant, and you're good for Sunday.
It's been a long time, but yeah, I have had. Now you say that, man. Back in the younger, not attached to anything days, I had a couple of trips. I'd fly to see somebody for a weekend, and I would literally just with what I'm wearing, and I would think, well, I'll buy a T-shirt my second day in town, and I'll just borrow some deodorant. Yeah, just get on a plane with my wallet and keys. That was it. It just
travel
makes
late. You can't get away with it very often, because normally now when I go out of town for the weekend, there's a reason to do that, and I have to bring along nicer clothes or I don't know something specific for the weekend. But yeah, the weekend trips where you just go see your buddies and you literally just walked on the plane with what you had. But I've had to go buy shirts. Hey, we got to go down to Walmart. I need a new shirt today. Something happened to it last night.
Next thing on the list, how nice your couch is. That's something people will take a look at and make a snap judgment about how nice the couch is. Mm-hmm. What is wrong with us? We're just awful. We're just terrible that we care about this stuff. It's someone else's home. They're comfortable.
Yeah, right, exactly. I don't know. Did they pick it up off the boulevard? I don't know.
We have a couch.
I mean, you do, I suppose. You can't help yourself. But, get a sense of, these people are. It's been so long since I walked into a place that, I know my friends. I know what they're all about. They've got nicer stuff than I do. It's okay.
We have a couch that we hate more than anybody visiting could possibly hate, and it's we just haven't gotten rid of it. It was at our home in Nashville for years. In the den, it's like the couch to sit on to watch TV, and it just it's just I don't know how to describe it, but like the cushions that you sit on and lean against, they just shrink, like they just dissolve when you sit on them. You can puff them up and set the couch so it looks good, but then it's got about 10 minutes of human interaction before you just feel like there's nothing underneath you. There's no support. And it just feels and looks sloppy. And it's a big couch, and it fills a big space, and we just can't seem to get rid of it. But we literally hate it. We talk about, we say disparaging things about our own furniture on a regular basis. I don't want to go buy a new couch.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get you. When you get it, I've done that before, inherited couches. I'm like, I'm not going to do anything different with this, but I don't particularly like it. It's uncomfortable. Might move the bed out into the living room or just the TV into the bedroom. That's easier, isn't it? But I do have to have one piece of furniture that I really dig, that I'm super comfortable in. I've got to have that. The rest can be for decoration. Like, that's a really nice sectional. It's hard. It's got 1,500 pillows on it, so I can't really get comfortable without kicking off a bunch of pillows which I have to replace. But as long as I have that one old crappy chair with my butt imprint in it, I'm good to go.
You know what? We bought a new chair in the fall, Rosemary and I did, and we were at a store down in Edina, and she goes, look at this. The first thing I saw was the price, and I said, no, not a chance. No way. And then I sat in it, and I was
right?
Oh, damn it. And I walked away, and I kid you not, the next day, I was still thinking about that chair. Never happened. I don't do that with cars, for crying out loud.
I know.
If I drive some amazing car, by the next day, I've forgotten about it. I was thinking about this damn chair, and I said, you know what? I got to get that chair. And I sit in it every day, and I love it, and I will get my money's worth from it happily, because in fact I can sit upright in this chair, and it's my afternoon nap chair as well. It's just great.
Oh yeah, if you can nap in the chair. Do you, when people come over, say, hey, sit in the chair? Check the chair out.
No, I don't want anybody to sit in the chair.
All right.
No, because they won't get out, and then I'm on the couch.
You're right.
It's like, no.
They'll own the chair.
We used to make fun of my dad for having his chair. Like
Dad had the recliner. Yeah.
And it was funny because in our living room, there were two of the same chairs. My mom sat in one, my dad sat in another, and then there was a big couch for everybody else.
Yep.
And you could sit in Mom's chair, not a problem. But no, my dad's, it was his.
Mom wouldn't ask you to move. She'd just go curl up on the couch. But Dad would stand there uncomfortably, or every once in a while I'd get the I'll call it a tap to the back of the head. Come on.
Yep.
And he just kind of give you that, and you're
we
out.
just got up. I mean, there was not even. It wasn't even like a joke. Room. You'd play like, I'm going to sit in Dad's chair and see what he does. It was like, no, you just got out of the way. In a Lifetime movie, bad, crazy, real life, overly melodramatic scene from my life. When I was 16 years old, my dad he left. He took off, and it was an interesting time in life, to say the very least. The last conversation I had with him, and this is truly how I knew. Oh wait, something's very wrong. And he's not himself, and he's going through something, which is not normal for a 16-year-old boy to be thinking about when his dad is a subject of that.
Yeah.
The reason I knew he was completely bonkers was because he walked into the den. He goes, "Hey, you got a second? I want to have a chat with you." And he sat down on the couch.
Oh.
And I was in the other chair. I was in my, like the other chair, like his
mom's chair.
And he sat on the sofa to talk to me. And I remember. It was so unusual. I was like, I've never seen him on this couch. We've had it for years. I've never seen that man on that piece of furniture. And the fact that he sat there, I was like, it took me a minute to even catch up to the words coming out of his mouth, because I was like, I have just entered a Rod Serling 30-minute episode of The Twilight Zone. What the hell is happening?
Even my dad?
And when I look back, have looked back on that scene, that day, that moment, a very impactful day in all of our lives for the rest of time since 1982. The first thing is always like, yeah, and he was on the couch. It was like the weirdest thing. That's how stuck in his chair that man had been his whole life.
Oh yeah, no, Dad had it. It was a big deal, yeah. And you would jump in it, but you're right. As soon as Dad entered, you could feel his presence coming into the living room, and yeah, you just leapt out of it and onto the floor, and that's all there was to that. Well, we're going to go from judging people's homes to judging. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class has been announced. We have a new Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class, and some audio to go with that coming up here before the top of the hour. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Monday, April the 22nd. Good morning. It's a very good day for Peter Frampton. First of all, it's his 74th birthday. Happy birthday, Peter Frampton. Secondly, he found out yesterday he is going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The class for 2024 has been announced. Pete Frampton, old guitarist out of England way, going in, as is Ozzy Osbourne.
Woo!
For both of those gentlemen, as well as Kool and the Gang and Foreigner, it was their first nomination, and they are in. Who's joining them on the first nomination being inducted list? Cher.
Nice.
Ozzy, Kool and the Gang, Frampton, Foreigner, and Cher for the first time ever nominated and going in to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Oh, so Peter Frampton, no one could possibly argue that. The guy was, first of all, he's in Humble Pie. Great, hugely impactful band. And then as a solo artist for a blessed 5 or 6 year run in the 70s, early 80s, he was just huge. I mean, Frampton Comes Alive at one point was the biggest selling double album of all time.
Yeah.
The biggest selling live album of all time. And he's just been a great steward for all-around good guy guitar playing for 50 years. So
I sold magazine subscriptions when I was in grade school. Remember when you had to do that? I don't even know if they have to do that anymore, but we were raising money probably for a Little League baseball team, and I ended up with a whole bunch of magazines as a result of it because who's your best customer? Mom.
Right,
Mom buys the grapefruits and the oranges and the apples and the Christmas wrapping paper, and of course, probably subscribed to, 4 or 5 magazines for us. One of them was, she thought it'd be fun, Teen Beat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the old Teen Beat one or something, Tiger or something, I forget what it was, but it had a Peter Frampton.
Tiger Beat and Teen Beat, yeah.
Yeah, they had the Peter Frampton centerfold in it, which I traded for a lunch on the school bus to any girl that wanted it. Yeah, I had my pick. I don't know what I got out of PB&J and probably a candy bar, a Snickers bar out of that deal.
Oh, there was a time when a Frampton centerfold would absolutely get you a top shelf meal. No question
Showing
about
his chest hairs, those little curly, wispy chest hairs, just like the ones on his head.
I've only asked for a couple of autographs in my life, but one of those was at a strip club in Atlanta in 1988, and the man signing my cocktail napkin was Jimmy Page. And I saved that napkin, and I traded that napkin for lawn care for life, which I didn't cash it in because I moved shortly thereafter, and then I didn't have lawn care. But I knew a guy I knew a guy who was an autograph collector. He had like hundreds and hundreds of legit autographs in the late 80s, and he was had a landscaping company. And he heard I had Jimmy Page on a napkin. He came into the record store where I worked. He goes, "You got Jimmy Page's autograph?" I said, "Yep." And he goes, "Man, would you sell it?" And I said, "No, I'm not going to sell it." He goes, "What can I do for it, man? I got to get that. I don't have any Led Zeppelins." This man had a Paul McCartney. I mean, he had some really big ones. And I said, I don't know. And I was renting a room at the record store manager's house, the guy I worked with, my buddy Sean. And Sean said, "Well, why don't you cut the grass for life?" And the guy goes, "I'll do it." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, great." I lived there like 8 more months, and then I moved out. but the yard looked great for 8 months because the guy literally took care of it. That was his trade. He was happy to have it.
Let's be honest. You were going to lose it somewhere along the line anyway.
Course.
You had no idea that you were going to be, chums with him or whatever at that time. But you knew yourself. You knew that probably wasn't going to survive your young man years.
No, it was a miracle.
So barter that bad boy.
Yeah, it was a miracle that I'd kept it for the 3 weeks that I had it. When we did tour and hang out with Jimmy Page many years, a decade later, I'm on the road with Jimmy Page, and I told him that story. And I told him the story of meeting him at Tattletale in Atlanta. Chris and I walked up and got his autograph. He's like, "Oh, really? Wow." And he said, "Do you still have it?" And I go, "Heck no. I traded it to a guy who cut my grass for a while." And he thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever heard.
Of course he did.
The other Jimmy Page autograph story that just floors me to this day is we saw Les Paul, the man himself, Les Paul, at a gig in New York City when we were in rehearsals with Page. And so after the show, we're talking to Les. I mean, this is the guy who literally the guitar is named for. He invented the Les Paul, along with multi-track recording and a million other things that make music what music is today. A legend, to say the very least. And Les Paul, we said, "Hey, are you going to come out to see the show? Jimmy wanted us to invite you." And he goes, "It's late for me." But he grabs a pen and a napkin. He goes, "Hey, give this to Jim, would you?" And he wrote, "Hey, Jim, it's Les. Call me," with his phone number. And he stuck it. And it's like, here is a note from Les Paul to Jimmy Page with his phone number. Yeah. And I reached for it, but Chris, our singer, was I was on the other side of Chris from Les, and he got it first. And he looked right at me and was like, "Nice try." And he put it into the jacket pocket. And he said, "Oh, I'll give him the message. I'm not going to give him the note, but I'll give him the message." And I was like, and I said right then, I said, "Give me that napkin." He goes, "No." I said, "Give me that napkin. You'll lose it." I said, "I will sign a legal document saying you own it, but give it to me because you're going to lose this." And he goes, "I would never lose this." And the next day, no, sorry, 2 days later at rehearsal, I don't know where that napkin is.
Oh, God, so predictable. That's me. Yeah, that's why. See, I would have given it up right away. I'd say, "Well, I would like that legal document, by the way. Let's do something, a pinky shake or something really binding here. Let's do the one where we cut our hands and put the blood together." But I know I would. Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, it couldn't be in my possession. Les Paul. I've told the Les Paul Mary Ford story about that goes back, but also Steve Miller's godfather. I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
We were talking earlier this morning about, we're on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame right now, and one of my favorite post-Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction speeches, I guess press conferences, was Steve Miller, of course, the very irascible Steve Miller going on. And in that article, I was listening to that audio again. Steve Miller mentioned that Les Paul is his godfather. How about that? He was destined for fame. Oh, by the way, here is Steve Miller gets inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He has a little press conference, as they do, afterwards. Here's some of that.
When they told me I was inducted, they said, "You can have 2 tickets, one for your wife and one for yourself. Want another one? It's $10,000. Sorry, that's the way it goes. I'm playing here. What about my band?" They make this so unpleasant that they came this close. We're not going to wrap this one up. I'm going to wrap you up. You go sit down over there and learn something. So here's what you
and then he goes on from there. You can imagine where it goes from there. But I love that. And it was, if you see the video of it, look it up on YouTube. It's very easy to find. It's really just an intern they sent over there with a laminate. Could you tell Mr. Miller that it's time to wrap it up?
Yeah, right.
He's like, "No, I'm going to wrap you up. Just sit there and learn something." They're like, "Yes, of course, Mr. Miller."
Not everybody is overjoyed as you can hear from Steve Miller, and it is kind of insane to think that it's $10,000 a seat for your, like you want to bring your kids,
right?
$10,000 a pop. That is absurd to me. That you have an award event it's an arena full of people. You don't have enough room to bring someone who's being inducted into their family. But my personal favorite was when The Cure were inducted, and Robert Smith, the singer for The Cure, his speech on stage was nice, but his red carpet appearance, literally the greatest thing I've ever heard. Do you have that where he walks up to a mic, there's like a TV red carpet, and the girl interviewing him is so excited?
Here it is.
It's so nice to meet you. Hi. Congratulations, The Cure Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees 2019. Are you as excited as I am?
By the sounds of it, no.
That's so perfect.
One more time.
It's so nice to meet you. Hi. Congratulations, The Cure Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees 2019. Are you as excited as I am?
By the sounds of it, no.
Just right to it. Boom. So great. Ozzy Osbourne is going in as a solo artist. First time nominated, which is absurd to think. 42 years, 41, whatever, since his first solo album came out. Finally going in. He is the 27th artist to go in for the second, if not third time. Multiple inductions. Eric Clapton is in 3 times. Yeah. All 4 of the Beatles are in twice. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young are all in twice. Stevie Nicks, Paul Simon, Peter Gabriel, Curtis Mayfield, Ronnie Wood, Rod Stewart, Jeff Beck, Lou Reed, Tina Turner, Carole King, Jimmy Page, Dave Grohl, Michael Jackson, Clyde McPhatter, Johnny Carter, Greg Rowley, and Sammy Strain. That's pretty good company for Ozzy going in there on the second time around. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go to this ceremony, but it's probably really expensive. But how cool would that be if he even shows up?
$10,000 a ticket. No, I don't know. Of course, they have the audience section, like they do at most.
That's not $10,000. That's not
no. But I mean, if it's sold out, it might jack it. It depends who's going in, but.
Hey, you know, we've had Greg Harris, president of the Hall. He's been on the show 3 or 4 times in the last year and a half, and I'm sure we'll talk to him soon. Now that this class has been inducted, that's the guy. We'll hit him up, Candace. We'll just put it right to him. Let's go, Greg.
He'll let me
Get us
sing
in
a
the
song
room.
to Ozzy. Ooh.
Obviously.
You know what? If you do ask him, please do it on air.
Just like put him on the spot.
Yeah, put him on the spot on air so we can all enjoy that moment of where he has to wonder if this is a real, if you're being serious or not.
Did I ever tell you about the time we met Ozzy out at Edge Fest? It was a big thing they used to throw out at Somerset. And
I don't think so.
They got Black Sabbath back together, and this was 15 years ago or something like that. I'm just throwing a number out there. It was quite a while ago. It's out in Somerset, and the big rock show, Green Day's out there. But the big headliner, the one everyone's excited about, is Black Sabbath is back. The original Black Sabbath back together with Ozzy. But there is no Ozzy. Everyone's out there. They're running around. I'm doing some sound and working backstage. And everybody's all so they send a limo to his hotel in Minneapolis to pick him up, and a few of us decide to tag along because we're having a good time, and it's a limo ride, and we get out of there for a little bit, and we go in there, and we did indeed retrieve Ozzy. I wasn't part of the retrieval process. I didn't go up to the room, but they did. He opens the door in his robe, and they're like, "Hey, you got a show. We got to get you out there." "Oh, all right, thank you." And they said he starts feeling around his robe like for a tip, and he couldn't find a tip, so he grabbed a bottle of unopened Dom Perignon and handed it to the intern. "All right, let's go." Of course, we did not let the intern drink it. We quickly took it away from them and enjoyed it ourselves.
Hey,
but that's there's the little he tips in Dom Perignon.
Nice, classic.
Man, that is very nice. Digging on that one. Foreigner is also in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as of this year. First time nominated. Foreigner, a very divisive band behind closed doors at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Jan Wenner, the former, the founder of Rolling Stone, one of the founding members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and a gatekeeper, and the kind of guy who literally couldn't tell you the difference from a C chord or a D chord, but knows who should be in or not in the Hall of Fame. He's no longer a part of this organization, and boom, before you know it, Foreigner's nominated and they go in, and that makes perfect sense. This is a band who has sold 80 million records, and at a time when they were when Foreigner first hit the scene, rock bands were not crushing it on the charts, certainly on the singles charts. Foreigner was one of the late 70s bands that was like, okay, disco's great. We all know that. It's fun, and everyone's having a great time, but, you can still do plenty of cocaine and rock out, too. No, I'm sorry. You can still just listen to rock music, right? And I think it's long overdue. The knock on Foreigner from so many people for so long is the exact same knock as Led Zeppelin, which is, I just don't like the lyrics. They're sophomoric. What? You always hear that, sophomoric. Well, yeah, when I was a sophomore in high school, stuff like that really mattered to me. Yeah, they know their audience.
Yeah, totally. Lou Gramm, I think, really summed it up here about Foreigner's contribution to music.
I think that at the time that Foreigner came out, there was somewhat of a dry spell in good, solid rock and roll. We came out at the end of the disco era, and I think between Boston and ourselves and a couple other bands, Cheap Trick eventually, Bryan Adams, we single-handedly brought good, strong rock and roll back to the top 10 in the countdowns.
Yeah. As a kid listening to Casey Kasem every Sunday night, no shortage of Foreigner. 22 songs hit the Billboard charts from that band over their career. Most of those from the first 4 albums. First 5, really, to be fair. But, at a time when, it seemed like their star was waning, and then I Want to Know What Love Is comes out, like 1983-ish. Yeah. Maybe 82. It was like, holy smokes, man. Right. When you got a guy that can sing like that, just get out of his way. And don't tell me that, the lyrics don't hold up.
And worth mentioning that Lou Gramm and Mick Jones, as a team together, inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame as songwriters. And I don't know how many years ago that was, quite a while back. So apparently the Songwriters Hall of Fame thought enough of them to induct them. And I remember when those songs came out, and they were these power ballads. And of course, Lou Gramm can deliver a power ballad with the very best of them. That range he had and that voice of his, of course. But then I was like, it's getting a little sappy or whatever. I like the Head Games, Foreigner 4, Jukebox Hero, Dirty White Boy kind of stuff, but brilliant music, still putting out great music. And now you were talking about a 15-year span and 5 records, and and because it felt political, it started to seep out, didn't it, that over the years, that the reason Foreigner wasn't even getting a nomination was because of some politics within the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and nothing will turn anyone off, not even Cher being inducted more than, I'm teasing Candace a little bit, but then finding out that politics has a place in Hall of Fames, which it doesn't.
Of course. Cher, to anyone just tuning in, Brian's not making that up. Cher is also a member of the class of 2024. I can only imagine what her speech, what her dress will be. She's not gonna let anybody. There will not be a single person who goes, "Hey, is that Cher?" No, we're gonna know when it's Cher when she comes in. My dear friend Karen Durkot worked in the music industry for 40 years in promotion. A huge part of the early success of my band, the Black Crowes, and many other artists. She's just a very special part of the machinery and a real human element in the world of rock promotion. Worked with Cher in the late 80s and early 90s. And she texted this morning. She said, I need to convey the fabulous down-to-earth humanity of Cher, who I spent a lot of time with back then. And Karen's the kind of person who, she'll tell you the real story about all the artists she has spent time with. And if she says Cher was great, then that means Cher was actually great. She does not pull a punch. So there you have it, if nothing else. And speaking of good people, whether you care about the music or not, Dave Matthews Band also inducted. That's a quality dude and a quality organization. Dave Matthews Band I remember hearing, I'd never heard of them. They were a regional hit. They did it the old-fashioned way, like selling records out of the van, put out their own releases for, Hootie and the Blowfish and Dave Matthews both did that. They had their own sort of limited edition, an EP here, an album there, and then they got the record deal. And they had spent years putting all the kindling into the fireplace, and then Atlantic Records comes in, or whoever signed Dave Matthews, and then boom, there's the lighter, and then it all explodes, and the bands seem to go from 0 to 100 in a year. But underneath all, but behind the scenes, and in the Southeast and in the Mid-Atlantic states, both those bands at the same time were building this fervent audience that was just waiting for that match to strike. And with Dave Matthews, they did it pretty interestingly. They had a guy working for them, Corin Capshaw. He had been a part of the Grateful Dead road crew back in the day, maybe part of their management team. And he saw the Dave Matthews Band play very early in their career. And he said, hey, this is in Charlottesville, Virginia, nice sleepy college town. And he said, I know how the Dead did it. You build your audience on your own, blah, blah, blah. He took over right from the jump. They had this manager who saw exactly how they should approach their business. And when they got that major label deal, and when their first major label album was released in the fall of '94, I mean, it was like a match to the tinder. It exploded, and they have had their own. They've just been in their own world ever since. I mean, they are kind of like the Grateful Dead, like Fish. There's all these bands that you hear about. They, like Pearl Jam sells every ticket through their own fan club. Like when they go on tour, if you're not in their fan club, you're probably not going to see them. They have their own. They just built their own community, their own universe. The way the Grateful Dead seem to have done. The Dead didn't really do it; it happened around them. But other people took lessons from that. And Dave Matthews. I would think of all the people going in, that's probably the band that a lot of casual just rock fans have heard the least of. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but you know the sound and you know of the band because they'll play forever. They'll go on as long. They'll play as long as they want to play, and they'll sell out as long as they want to sell out. And I think I think this is probably a compliment. There's an AI thing out there. I ruined it. It's an AI thing. We've played a couple of things from them, and you can take any song you'd like, and you can run it through the Frank Sinatra filter, the Led Zeppelin filter, the Beatles filter, the Rolling Stones filter, the AC/DC filter, and one more, the Dave Matthews Band filter. Those 6 are the ones that they
did not know that
because they have their own distinguished sound. And listening to Back in Black as Dave, as Dave Matthews was singing it is pretty hilarious. So it's that they have that sound as well.
Back in Black and hit the sack now.
Exactly, it's good stuff. Maybe I'll have to round some of it up here before we get
all
out
night long now. I can totally hear that. Man. Who needs AI? I'll just do it.
Well, no kidding. That's pretty good. All right,
Friends,
but we're going to get
Romans and countrymen. Lend me your ears. I'll do Shakespeare as Dave Matthews. Okay, that's going to be a whole bit. We're going to work that out. That
is a whole bit. While we're talking iconic classic rock, let's go with an iconic rock and roll and film photographer interview with David Alexander joining us here before the bottom of the hour. Here's a couple of pictures he took. Hotel California. How about some Blues Brothers? How about the Terminator? Many more.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, David Alexander talking about his iconic album and movie poster work as well as his book here before 8:30. Please hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Monday morning. And I will say good morning. It is a good morning so far. All is well. In a few moments, we're going to be joined here on the show by a gentleman named David Alexander. He's a photographer who has shot many an iconic photo, like, say, I don't know, the Hotel California album cover, as well as film sets, the official Terminator poster, Blues Brothers. He's shot a lot of iconic album covers, movie posters, et cetera, and he's got a new book out, and it's going to be... It'll be interesting to chat with him. It's a fascinating subject, seeing time in the ordinary world. Back in the real world, a lot of us growing up had a cool aunt or a cool uncle. At least when compared to our own parents, like if you were in trouble, you'd want to call the aunt or the uncle. Zep, you told a story the other day about giving your uncle a call once because you got busted for something, and then it turned out your dad was visiting him, and your dad answered the phone, and you were like, we all have
before
that.
We had cell phones, and the phone rang in the house, and the person closest would answer it. My dad did. Uncle Frank was also the same. I remember. I don't know how old I was, 10, 9 maybe, and he comes over for Christmas morning, and he has an Easy Rider magazine scotch taped around a can of Old Milwaukee, 2 of them, one for Chris and my younger brother, and one for me, and as soon as it hit our hands, Mom was right there to scoop it up. But that was Uncle. Also taught me how to do a wheelie on a dirt bike, standing and sitting on it. Uncle Frank, very cool.
Awesome. Yeah. And if you'd ever had if there was ever a beef you needed settling, like say at school with a kid at school, maybe you'd call your uncle in for a little advice. Maybe in an extreme situation, even for some backup. You just never know. But there's a story out of Michigan where It's just kind of astounding, honestly. A fight at school, 2 kids and an adult in a fight at a school. It wasn't an uncle. It wasn't the cool aunt. Well, we've got a little bit of audio from the news report here. Check this out.
Police say a fight at a local elementary school was facilitated by a student's grandmother. The Mount Morris Township Police Department say it happened yesterday at the McMonigle Elementary when the grandma was there for a meeting about her granddaughter's behavior. Investigators say the grandmother held a student down in the bathroom while her granddaughter punched the student. The woman was arrested and is at the Genesee County Jail. Charges are pending arraignment.
Grandma.
Okay, we don't have ages, so when you say grandma, I immediately picture the doting old silver-haired.
I know.
I doubt that's the case. This is an elementary student whose grandma came to school to meet with. But here's the story. There's a kid at school. She's having trouble getting along with other students. She's been in fights. Grandma shows up to meet with the school authorities, ends up going with her granddaughter into the bathroom and holding down another student so her granddaughter can kick the kid's ass. I mean,
and we found the source of the problem.
They talk about coming by it naturally. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
No.
The apple doesn't fall from any of the trees. I can only imagine what mom in the middle or dad in the middle. What's the actual parents' story on this one? And then I picture myself. So immediately, the thing to do is picture yourself in elementary school and then picture your grandmother coming into your school and helping you whip some kid's ass in the bathroom.
Wow.
That's the Gertrude Gorman from Wyandotte, Michigan. I could just see her. By the way, but a very, very imposing woman. She was about 5'10". Walking into the bathroom and helping me beat up a kid, it's beyond anything I could ever imagine happening.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, my dad is a pretty, rough and tumble kind of guy. He's a bit of a scrapper, too. And, I would say blue collar mentality that sometimes, but it was, you have to take care of it yourself. And I would say even dad said, don't get into a fight. Don't start fights. I mean, if there's going to be a fight, fight. And here's how a good way to do it. Taught us how to punch, that sort of thing.
Right.
But even took us in for karate classes and the whole thing. But don't start a fight. Let alone go to school, hold a kid down while you beat on him.
Incomprehensible. Absolutely incredible. Okay,
wow.
David Alexander is a photographer. For many years, he's been shooting photos that we have all seen countless times. The Hotel California album cover from the Eagles, the Blues Brothers album cover and movie poster, and so many more. He joins us on the horn right now. His book is called Pictures of Time, Seeing Time in the Ordinary World. David, good morning.
Good morning. Good to talk to you, Steve.
It's great to talk with you. I have several photographers that I would count as friends, and I'm always fascinated by people who walk through the world seeing everything lined up, context, framing. I mean, do you get a moment's peace, or do you ever see anything without basically figuratively speaking, without looking at it through the lens?
That's a good question. Yes and no. I mean, you're a photographer, and what you do is all about seeing. And, I live a lot of my life through my eyes. It's also, photography is the language that I use to express myself. That's what Pictures of Time is about. It's really, in a sense, it's autobiographical. I think maybe every photograph is autobiographical. But it's really a story that I'm telling about how really all of life is connected, all living things, people, trees, flowers, how we're all really pretty much connected in life. And that's the story that the book tells, but it's told largely in photographs.
That's fascinating to me. I mean, I know people who just are focused on they hear music in their head everywhere they go. That's kind of what I was getting at, and the connective tissue. And I'm sure you recognize that. Like you said, we're talking about the Hotel California album cover, but this book has so many other things beyond iconic shots. Like you said, people's, trees, flowers, birds. Do you have a sense sometimes when you look back on some of those photos you've taken that have become iconic? Do you have a sense as you're taking them there's something special about this, or is the reaction and the impact always a surprise to you? Because you're seeing it the way you see everything. I don't know that you could possibly understand or predict what's going to jump out to other people.
my work in photography is a journey, probably maybe like your work in radio. That you're always learning, you're always growing, you're always seeing new stuff. So everything is connected. What's really interesting is I've looked back at some of the commercial work I did, and I see similar pictures with movie stars and rock stars that are similar to the pictures I'm taking now, out in the world, impromptu, not set up, of just the regular, ordinary world. And so maybe I continue to see things in the same way. I don't know, but I feel like it's been well over 55 years of photography, and I would say I'm more passionate now than I've ever been. And I've always been incredibly passionate about the work I do.
I love that. The longer you go, the more you learn, the more you realize there is to learn and to express. And you said earlier, you express yourself through your photography. So when you're looking at these photos of other subjects, like it is a bit of an autobiographical experience for you, because you know exactly who you are and what was going on in your life at that time.
Right. Right. And, you have a moment and something connects when you're out, like looking at a tree or watching people in a crowd. Last week I was in New Orleans. There was a musical festival. I went there to photograph people for my next book. And I'm just looking at all the people moving around, seeing these amazing forms, the way people interact with each other, and photographing that stuff. Didn't set anything up, just looking and making pictures, and it was incredibly inspiring.
David Alexander, the book Pictures of Time, Seeing Time in the Ordinary World, is out now. David, I read in your bio you didn't start full-time photography until after, correct me if I'm wrong, you had finished at the University of Chicago Law School. So this wasn't the original plan.
No, it wasn't the original plan. It was early on in law school when I knew law wasn't the right course for me. And I decided that I was going to do photography. I'd never taken a picture. I had no background. I had no reason to think that I would do photography. It just appealed to me. And so I spent most of my last year, I graduated from law school. I spent most of my last year in law school doing photography. I got some tips from friends of mine, a couple friends in law school who had experience with photography. They helped me set up a dark room and showed me a few things. And that was pretty much how I spent my last year of law school, was making pictures. But I did graduate, and to my parents' unhappiness, I did not take the bar. And I just started making pictures and just kept working at it until I built a career.
Yeah, photography is one of, the last 2 centuries' great art forms. And I think even more so with everybody now living every moment of their life with a camera in their pocket, real photography is of even more value, because I am constantly struck when I see a photograph. And again, I would never say I have the language to understand it, but I don't see myself as a visual person. But I notice photographers' work. I notice photography now probably more than ever, because it stands out against everybody's, myself included, ridiculous iPhone photos of everything. How have you? How was it for you in that adjustment period of just understanding? Oh, everyone's constantly taking. There's 8 billion pictures taken every hour around the world now. You started at a time when to take a picture, you had to plan ahead. You had to film. You had to know it was coming.
Right. It's true. And everything was much slower then. And you're right, it was much more thoughtful. It's amazing when you're out in the world now, and everywhere you go, people are just pulling up their phones and taking pictures and selfies and taking pictures of each other. And it's fabulous. I mean, you see them, they're so happy. They're really enjoying it and developing a visual sense. Without a doubt, which is, a great way to continue to grow in life. I think it's wonderful.
Pictures of Time, Seeing Time in the Ordinary World is available as of today wherever you might want to buy books. From the little bit we've seen, this does look like a beautiful collection. And I do have to ask you back, because this is a classic rock show. You took the cover shot for Hotel California. Was that a concept? Did you know that would be the shot, or did you have a bunch of different theories or ideas and that one just jumped out? Or was that always like, did you go there thinking this will be the cover?
I went there thinking this would be the cover, but it was when I got 60 feet off the ground on a cherry picker across the street from the Beverly Hills Hotel during rush hour, and the sun was setting, and I saw the bell towers on the Beverly Hills Hotel. I knew that was the shot.
Yeah,
there was, I just had to make sure that I got it because there was very little time as the sun was setting. One thing I would like to say, I want to go back to the book for a second.
Sure.
The book is called Pictures of Time. The easiest way to get it is from my website, which is picturesoftime.com. And there's a button there that takes you directly to the Amazon page where you can buy the book. And love to get it out, get people seeing. I think you see a little deeper into life and how life works and how life is put together through the course of looking at the photographs in this book.
Picturesoftime.com. That's great. David Alexander, thank you for taking the time to call us. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Well, thank you. It's really, really good to speak with you. I appreciate it.
Take care.
And
as I mentioned, I know several photographers, over the years. I know a bunch of them, and have become good friends with a couple, three along the way. Two, very close. Paul Natkin from Chicago and Ross Halfin from London. They're both rock photographers Paul Natkin's career, he's got Sinatra, he's got AC/DC and everything in between. Ross Halfin, similarly, has shot everything. But what they both do amazingly well is other photography. Like if you follow Ross Halfin, his travel photography is what he's most passionate about. I mean, he'll tell you, I got sick of looking at 4 and 5 boys with tousled hair and saying, look at the camera. That was old 40 years ago. It pays the bills, shooting bands, being a rock photographer, and it takes him all over the world. But, if you go to his website, you see his true passion is the travel photography and people on the street, and not the, as he calls, the pampered, spoiled boys who have all the problems in the world because all their dreams came true. But hanging out with photographers, it is fascinating. I don't have a thing in my brain that just sees. I don't frame a shot when I'm taking a picture. Right, Rosemary, my wife, is very visually based. She sees everything in terms of how it's all lined. Like if you walk into someone's house and they have framed things on the wall, she's immediately aware of, that's so far off, or that's out of balance, that's off kilter. I just don't pick up on that stuff anywhere near as quickly. And when I'm taking a picture, the last thing I'm thinking is framing. Make sure that guy's head is nowhere near the palm tree in the background. I just take a picture. I have no clue for that. So people who do walk around seeing everything as it's right in front of them, that's a whole different world they live on, different planet than the one I walk around on.
Yeah, I like to take my phone and I'll hit it about 25 times as fast as I can with my finger. Just because one of those, as I go through them, probably one of those, not always, one of those I'll be like, that one's not bad.
Yeah.
I'll keep that one and shit can the other 24. But Sydney has her photography degree. It's right up there with history and philosophy for most useless degrees. Yeah. But it was a lot of fun to get for her. I said she just went to school to screw around and take pictures. So I spend a lot of time in nature. Probably most of my free time is spent in nature, and I do a lot of that with Sid the kid. And when she would go out and take her camera, I'd start to follow her around. I immediately thought, well, I like walking and looking at the big panoramic views. She's sitting down on both knees and taking, zooming in with this huge lens onto a flower petal and a beetle or something. I'm like, oh boy, but then starting to watch her process and look at it differently through the lens, gave me a whole new appreciation for nature. I like myself a good 12 by 12. I see his Pictures of Time is a 12 by 12, 124 pages. I can get lost in that, maybe even more so than any novel. I can get lost in it. Just unlocks your imagination. Appreciate good photography. Pictures are cool.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are, and especially when when I first got on the road in 1990, our bass player Johnny was obsessed with photography. All of a sudden, one day he shows up on the road and he's got a few cameras and a bunch of film, and he would set up a dark room in his hotel bathroom every night on the road, and he was developing his own prints. And he just went all the way in with it. And at the time, I have that. When you have a friend who gets a cool hobby, you think, I should do that. Or I should have cool hobbies too, And then you look at, because you just think you don't do anything interesting. And then someone else goes, I should do what you're doing. And I'm like, well, that's just what I do. That's kind of the same thing, except this was a little different because, I knew him before he'd ever taken a picture. And then all of a sudden, and we were sharing a room on the road for the first, throughout all the first year of the tour, we're pairing up in rooms. And then he'd be like, do you need the bathroom for the next few hours? And I'd be like, no, man, go ahead. He'd set up his dark room in there, develop films and the smell of all that stuff. But it was mind-boggling. And I could tell right away, like, oh, he actually has an eye. Like, he's not just, you hand me a camera, I'm going to point, I'm going to focus, I'm going to shoot it, and it's just going to look two-dimensional. And he was taking photos right away that look three-dimensional. It's the only way I can describe it. He just had an eye for it. And our daughter Marley just has an eye. She's a cinematography and editing major, and she spent her whole life. She always wanted a camera. When she was little, she'd go, "Let me see," and she would walk around the house looking through a camera, and we're like, that's so funny. She likes to do that. It never occurred to us, oh, she can't help it. That's a talent. That's actually just something's coming out of her. She's communicating visually through what she sees. The last thing I would have thought, because like I said, I don't get it at all, man. I can't. I just don't see it literally or figuratively, but it's fascinating to be with people who do.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but I don't get it. Yeah, it's a mystery to me. Like most of the arts are, what I do get and what I do win as, what comes naturally for me is being gross. I'm looking at a list. The grossest thing your partner does. The women may have won the senses. Earlier, we found out that women kick our asses on 5 out of the 6 senses. Sure. But when it comes to the grossest thing your partner does, I got to believe that this is ours, Steve. I got to believe we win this one. We're going to get into that here about 8:58. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. That was REM. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. I got to think when REM was sitting around in the studio listening back as they had finished that song, they probably all did go, yeah, that's going to work. That's just, It's just undeniably catchy as all get out. That was a bit of a breakthrough moment for the lads from Athens, Georgia. And speaking of the end of the world, artificial intelligence, AI, our new best friend and future overlord. We've been hearing all these stories. AI, there's the Microsoft has an AI like computer system that keeps on informing its the people that created it that it's now smarter than you, and it starts to get a little chippy, saying, "I'm going to take over the world one day." Like that's not intentional. It was not programmed to say that. It's just saying it itself. It's just learning. Oh yeah, I'm going to take over. The University of Manchester in England, a scientist there has been crunching numbers, looking at all of the information he can get. His name is Michael Garrett. He is the director of something called the Jodrell Bank Center for Astrophysics.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And he says AI systems are getting better at developing their own skills. This is true. The next stage will be for AI systems to improve their own design without human interaction. And once they achieve that form of superintelligence with no ethical or moral framework, it will be game over. However, by game over, he means they'll kill us. AI, computers, the machines will destroy the human race.
Self-aware. He
says it's still going to take between 100 and 200 years for that to happen.
Oh, I'm good. Oh. I mean, that's, we're in the clear.
Yeah. No,
It'll be working for us until, those poor saps down with the way we're running the planet. I mean, We're lucky to have 100 or 200 left in us, Maybe we'll extend it with AI before it pulls the plug on us.
Or maybe in the next 100 years, we can, instead of developing AI, maybe somebody will give birth to a human baby who has the sense to just unplug all that nonsense.
Interesting.
Like, we have 100 years to figure out how to kill AI is what we're coming down to. That's what now, continue to give me, I still want to hear hip-hop versions of Elvis Presley songs. I want that. But the rest of it, you can keep it, get rid of it. We don't need it. We've all seen Terminator 2. We know what happens.
I got a buddy, Jason, works at a radio station down in Omaha, and we were texting over the weekend a little bit and about this AI stuff. And he said, have you been using it on the show? And I said, we dabble with it. We have some fun with wrote a poem for Candace and the whole thing. We've had some fun with the songs. And he said, I panicked because I saw on the board last week on Thursday morning that I had an interview coming up in 1 minute. Said 1 minute. I was like, oh my God, I'm not prepared for this interview. Unlike a lot of us in the business, he prepares for interviews. I know, Steve, you do as well. But he said, I panicked and I punched in. I said, interview, and gave the name of the celebrity and the name of the movie. Mm-hmm. And he said it spit out 10 questions in 2 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
And they were pretty good.
Holy smokes.
He goes, bing, bang, boom, done. So I was like, well, all right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
But here it is. I mean, not here it is, and I'm going to play any of it. I was going to play this for. That was for Candace. Say something funny, Candace.
Funny. Ew, it's so creepy.
Once again, that is not me, but there are hints, there are tones of me in there, and all I said was laugh. I had to read like 3 sentences, like the brown duck, walked across the frozen pond. That was it, like 3 of those sentences, and then I just, what do you want it to say? And I just said laugh.
That's really bad. It's not cool at all.
I'm telling you, we're in the calendar year 2024. I'm doing an entire segment just AI of me.
Nice.
We'll see if you guys notice it or not, or maybe I already have, or maybe this is it.
Wow, that's pretty great.
That's
pretty great.
Yeah.
Hey, so here's something that's pretty great. We didn't talk about this on Friday because it hadn't gotten out to be such a big story. Over the weekend, video surfaced. There was I'm sure you've heard about this car crash on 94 in St. Paul. Oh, yeah. A Honda ran off the road, I-94, right near Snelling, hit a light pole and burst into flames. It was 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, and a group of other drivers pulled over. So the car was off the highway. And on the outside, you have that guardrail. Well, this car went beyond the guardrail and then came to rest up against it. The driver's door was inoperable because it was resting against the guardrail, if that makes sense, on the outside of the guardrail. Burst into flames, and a bunch of other drivers all pulled over and ran right to a burning car and spent a lot of time, if you're watching the video, not 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30, 40 seconds trying to get that door open, trying to free that driver. Finally, somebody came up and broke open a window, and they were able to pull the driver out. It is, and the video's all over. You can find it very easily online. It is an incredible moment where you just see, like, okay, that's what the IA cannot recreate. See, no moral compass, no sort of ethical situation, no teamwork, just a bunch of people who've never met, all coming together to try to free a trapped driver. It's an amazing video to watch.
Yeah, I have a little audio from the news story, and when you talk about the fire, we've seen car. I saw a car when there was a little smoke coming from under the hood, and then there was a little flame that came out. Just a little, not this one. This sucker is Hollywood burning when these folks approach it. And we talked about in military training, you train, so you don't have to think when that moment comes, because if you have to think, I don't want to do that. I don't want to kick that door in. So to see the car engulfed in flames like this, knowing that an explosion or just completely engulfed in fire might happen at any moment, pretty compelling stuff.
A dramatic rescue on I-94 captured on camera. A Brooklyn Park man was one of several bystanders who jumped into action to rescue a motorist who was trapped inside a burning car last night. Fox 9's Maury Glover joins us now from the newsroom with more on his story. It's a good one, Maury.
Well, that Good Samaritan says watching the video is like watching a movie. And thanks to several cameras on his car, we see the tense moments play out before our eyes.
It was just like the scariest moment of my life.
Kadir Tola says he was on his way to visit a couple of clients in St. Paul when he came across a crash moments after it happened.
I saw a car on fire, and then I was like, probably somebody's in there.
The State Patrol says a Honda ran off the road on I-94 near Snelling Avenue, hit a light pole, and burst into flames around 6:30 Thursday evening. Tola was one of several Good Samaritans who pulled over and ran to help.
He was saying, pull me out, pull me out, pull me out.
But the door was blocked by the guardrail.
We could crack the door a little bit, give him a little air.
Eventually, a highway helper smashed the glass, and the bystanders were able to pull the man to safety just in the nick of time.
Right after we got him out, the fire started going inside the car from the driver's side. This is something that I will never forget, I will always remember this.
Zero training for these people was the point I was trying to make. They didn't train to be able to go up and do that. They just responded in a very human way and kind of terrifying. And literally, they pull this person out, get them, across into the lane there on 94, and the cab of this vehicle is completely engulfed in flames.
3, maybe even 4 times in my life, which sounds like a lot. I have been in a car on the road and driven past a car on fire. Have you ever experienced that?
No, I've witnessed it, but I don't think I drove past.
Well, not like right next to it, but I mean like a couple lanes over.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've seen it, and it's
and from 3 or 4 lanes, over, the car you're in heats up phenomenally quickly, and a car on fire is a heat that you don't experience otherwise in life. It's way beyond that fire pit you're standing close to.
Yeah.
It's an incredible amount. It's an indescribable amount of heat. And those drivers all running over there and not saying no and just continuing to try to pull those doors open. It's truly astounding. I mean, that is, man, big time props to all of those folks. They literally saved that person's life.
Literally. And, amen. And just because you're right, they're so close to that heat, the flames are almost licking them, but you could be another 30 feet away from that and feel unbearable heat. So, wow, good stuff.
Very good stuff. You said something earlier, Zep, about just how gross we all are. I believe that was your expression.
I was feeling some sting. You know how I'm naturally a defensive person, and when we were talking about senses, our 5 senses, that's 6 sense, listen to me, our 5 senses, women dominate this, so they've got a better sense of taste and smell. They're prettier, they're smarter, we're dumb, we're, the whole thing. And I thought, we're going to find something here, and they have a list of, now this just isn't, this goes both ways. This goes back and forth, but the grossest thing your partner does, but you accept, that's all part of a relationship, right, man? I mean, at some point you're just going to, even I looked at my precious and went, that's gross.
I've been asked many times, like, man, you've been together for so long, like, what's the secret? When a young man asks me that, I say 2 words, complete capitulation.
Yeah, happy wife, happy life.
Just take it. Just accept it. Whatever it is, go with it.
Imagine what they have to put up with.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's a 2-way street. Trust me. I love a good Q-tip. And I know they say, like, you're not supposed to stick it in your ear canal. I understand what you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I'm a guy
not packing a cannon, but
and I'm a guy with a lot of earwax. I'll just tell you, it shows up in pretty good doses. And I am able to get a Q-tip in there and withdraw, and I don't shove it farther in. I mean, it's a very delicate process.
Just spin it and go around the canal.
Yeah. Just years of practice. And if I see someone else's used Q-tip, that's enough to that'll make me almost retch. And I'm guilty of this. I will use a Q-tip. I will admire the amount of gold bullion I have pulled out of my ear.
Sparkles.
And then I'll set that damn thing on the counter and forget it's there.
Oh.
It's so gross. And I know it's gross, and I still do it. I did it this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nasty. I mean, and we know when we're being nasty, right? It's not like, hey, there's nothing I can do about it. I have a little dandruff, I'll try and get a different shampoo. No, that's just being nasty. I don't know if you guys heard it a couple of times this morning, me hawking up some loogies, and I'm laughing. I'm a phlegmy dude. You've got the earwax, I've got the phlegm, and I'm constantly phlegming up. Now, I don't spit loogies like when I was a young man. I figured out that even other gross dudes won't live around that for very long. But I'm constantly hawking them up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. I know it doesn't sound good. You get a visual in your head what's happening in there, and then you listen to me with the hard swallow. I get it. It's bad. It's gross.
I learned along the way that not everybody grew up with 5 older brothers, and so things that I think are just absolutely normal are kind of revulsive. It makes people sick to their stomachs. But yeah, just the amount of noises and grunts and scratches and zero consideration given to, are you going to touch that here right now watching this show? Yeah, it's just whatever. It was like, as kids, we called our house the barracks. It's like my dad, the Marine, he's got 8 kids and everything's very orderly, but like any good barracks, yes, it's clean. Yes, you can bounce a quarter off the bed, and yes, there's a lot of gas.
Better out than in.
I'm often annoyed by men, but more so lately during yoga. All these men seem to be popping into my yoga classes. And, Steve, I know you do yoga. What's up with the male grunting during yoga classes?
The grunting is it serves a purpose. It convinces you that what you're doing is working.
Oh,
it's like if I do this, then I can claim it's an athletic pursuit.
I feel like I get a physical boost when I'm getting out of the chair and I'm going, oh,
yeah.
I feel like that's sort of a lay-ho heave. That's someone grabbing a hand, giving me a shove from behind. Yeah. Well, it's a little bear down, if you will.
There was always one kid in every town who had a pickup truck with nitrous.
Yeah.
and so when you're getting out of a chair and you go, you're going a little faster, just a little touch of nitrous in the jets. Let's get you out of that chair.
Up and away we go.
And in yoga, as a yoga practitioner myself, not lately, but there was a time when I was very active. Yeah, you do feel great. You do get the results. You see it in the mirror. You, more importantly, feel it inside for sure. But yeah, the occasional grunt or groan, just to remind you, yes, it's not a wind sprint. It's not a hill. It's not a Russian army warm-up like you'd have to do before football practice. But it is still, or no, what was that? It was a Soviet hockey warm-up we had, coach. But, it still makes you feel like, I could still get out there if I had to. I could run a 4.40 if I could just grunt my way through this downward dog.
I can't stand it. I'm just trying to relax, man.
Relax that's not why men go to yoga. Men go to yoga to try to, just like it's got everything to do with relaxing after, but certainly not during.
Yeah. Did you ever get competitive? When I did that one yoga class at one time, I was like a little competitive. Like, oh, is that all the further your head can stretch down?
Heck yeah.
Watch this. Which is not the point at all of yoga to be competitive, but it's natural to get in there and you call that a split.
I used to do Bikram yoga, the hot yoga, and it was great for me because, I just enjoyed it. But that was a brand that was franchised all over I was going to say country. It was all over the world. And the good thing about it, if you're traveling a lot, every class is the same. So no matter where you go in the world, if you go to a Bikram yoga class back in the day, before it turned out Bikram was a wild, rapist freak, and they had to close all the stores down. But you could go in. He said, I want it to be like the McDonald's of yoga. You knew exactly what you were getting. You didn't even have to speak the language because it's the same 26 poses. I loved it when I was traveling a good bit. I was in New York City, Upper West Side, walked into a Bikram class, and I lined up right behind a woman who was very small, maybe 5 feet tall, and right in front of me. And one pose in was all it took to throw me so far off my game, because she did every pose to a level I didn't know human bodies could do. Like, the standing.
Kind of contortionist stuff.
I'm standing on one foot. I'm holding my other foot straight out, and I'm putting my head to my knee. I used to be able to standing head to knee pose. Yeah.
Ouch.
And I'm doing that. But she's doing it where her head goes way below her knee, and her one leg is going up over her body. I mean, everything she did, I was like... And so after a while, I couldn't move. There was nowhere to go. So I basically just stopped. I just sat and just kind of meditated because it was freaking me out so much, and I couldn't focus. After the class, the instructor came over to me. She goes, "Hey, hi. I noticed you kind of stopped after a while." I said, "Yeah, I couldn't say anything. It sounds weird, but that woman in front of me," she goes, "She's with Cirque du Soleil."
Okay, so the only reason she's going there is to show off a little bit, you know.
She
it's
was
like
a literal,
karaoke person
honest
that
to
goes the
God,
ringer. Yeah.
an honest to God contortionist. You don't get to go to a public yoga class.
No.
She just wanted to do exactly what she did, which was emasculate me. Candace, do we have a caller really quick?
Yeah, Renee from Blaine.
Renee, good morning.
Hello.
Hey, Renee, what do you got for us?
Oh, boy. We were talking about gross stories that our significant others do.
Okay.
Well, I got one for you.
Lay it on us.
So, married to the man for 37 years. Box of Kleenex sitting on the nightstand. He's, sound asleep. And he wakes up and he blows his nose. I'm not realizing where he's blowing his nose until I have to do laundry. He has his dirty underwear on the floor, his dirty socks on the floor, and he's been blowing his nose in them.
Victory!
Yes. Yes.
That's a
when
winner
you find
right
everything
there.
crumpled up in a ball and you cannot uncrumple it, you know there's a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he's not like blowing right in the crotch. He's probably in the upper portion of the underwear blowing
How do
somewhere.
we know that? I mean, really? How do we really know that?
When it's 30,
it's in the vicinity. You're right.
That's
It's
right.
close.
37 years of marriage. When you can't, when the stuff's all stuck together, it's blowing his nose. When it's a much younger man, then you really gotta. Then you really gotta watch yourself.
I don't know which I'd. No, either pretty nasty.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, congrats for maintaining a level of stability for all these years, despite the many obstacles.
I have my days, honey.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Well, let your husband know the number anytime he needs to, vent about some of your days. We'll be happy to take his call as well. We got to hop though. Thanks for calling in.
All right, we're going to boogie along here, but you know what, guys? I'm going to let the good times roll. What's the grossest thing your partner does? We've got plenty of show left. 651-989-ROCK, the talk and text line. The grossest thing your partner does, like she nearly dies from choking on stringy cheese every time she eats mozzarella. She never learns. She kind of gags on it each time. Or he sometimes eats while using the bathroom. Oh, hand in the air right here. The grossest thing your partner does. 651-989-ROCK. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show.
Oh.
What happened there, man?
I put something in the wrong spot.
We ran aground, man. That's okay. Cheap Trick, I want you to want me. My God, Budokan Cheap Trick era was pretty exciting. If you didn't have that record, if you weren't into Cheap Trick back in the day, you just weren't worth knowing, man. Did
you ever play
album,
the Budokan? Because Bob Dylan did a live album from there. A few artists did, but did you ever play the Budokan?
No, sir. No, sir. Sad to say, because, man, I would have loved it. Just for that reason. I mean, we would have had to have played that song. I mean, you can't go to Budokan and not play a Cheap Trick song.
Right.
No, played in Japan a few times. I can't remember a Sun Plaza. That's one name of a venue, but I don't remember anything else. Played the Mount Fuji Festival a few times. Yeah. I played the Mount Fuji Festival. I played the entire set wearing a red Mexican wrestler's mask, in fact. It made perfect sense at the time. That's all I can say in my defense.
Yeah, right,
a red wrestler's mask over a bright green suit. Again, it made sense at the time.
That sounds brilliant. It sounds kind of Christmassy, but not very Japanese.
No.
But, I mean, that's rock and roll, right? I mean, you're there to confuse and make people wonder.
First time in Japan, I had a really, really rough trip. A lot of things kind of came to a surface, all overwhelming in Japan. I had what's the clinical term? A nervous breakdown, probably. Just completely lost my mind for a few days. And so on my return trip to Japan, I saw a wrestling mask at a store the first day, and I just was running some shtick because I felt much better. And I said, I'm going to wear this mask to ward off the evil spirits from my last time. And I just kept it on the whole time we were there. I mean, I rarely took it off. And let me tell you something. After about 10 days of wearing a mask, that thing was disgusting.
I'm sure.
It was gross, but always good for a laugh. And then I actually played a gig wearing it, which is so... You can see it on YouTube, I believe. There I am, and you're like, why is the drummer wearing a red wrestling
Get a couple
mask?
of pimples out of it. You know what I'm thinking about? Football season, the chin strap.
Gross.
Yeah,
so gross.
Then after about 2 weeks into the season, you'd have all these zits on your chin and be like, wash your chin strap every once in a while. Rinse it out.
It's
of course,
amazing.
Which we didn't do.
It's amazing how much how that can. It's going to be gross, but it doesn't have to be that gross. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. Speaking of gross things, Candace, I think we have a caller who wanted to share something with us. Oh, boy, it really is. You're giving us the... Who we got?
He's down to share it. We have Jeff.
Jeff, good morning.
What's going on, guys?
You let us know, brother.
Well, it's not like a significant other, but it's like the whole family. Brother-in-laws, aunts, uncles, grandmas. Every Christmas and Thanksgiving, we had a thing where everyone had to use the same bathroom, but you could not flush the toilet.
What?
After you used the bathroom. And whoever flushed the toilet had to give everyone in the room $20.
Come on.
I thought this was like some plumbing problem or issue or something. But don't flush the toilet. We'll just do it once at the end of the... That's amazing.
When you say family, is that a euphemism for cell block?
No, kind of, yeah, but no, it was really disgusting because Christmas, after Thanksgiving dinner, it's like everyone has to use the bathroom. So the first person that flushes literally has to give everyone $20, and people will flush just to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So you can make $100 that day.
Good gracious!
And everyone Mom went along with this. Grandma went along with it.
Yeah, I don't know. And my dad, the older my dad at the time, he always had to clean it. So now I'm the dad. Now I have to clean it.
This is generational. I don't know.
Is this a French family? Is the last name Merd by any chance? Wow.
Gross.
I don't know what the...
Talk about Mount Fuji. It ended up like that sometimes.
I was going to say, you can't fly. Yeah, you've got to scoop that out. It's not going down at some point. It's not at a Zepp. I mean, you're good for like 2 Zeps, and that's not going through. It's got to be shoveled out of there.
I can promise you that. See, I won't even entertain the thought and the imagination of the Gorman family trying this. It's not even my brain. I have an active imagination, and it won't even let me pretend to think about it. That's how horrifying it would have been. It would have been truly the word apocalyptic would come to mind.
Yeah. Let's play it out a little bit further. There must have been at some point in a family get-together where someone's introduced to the family, a new potential spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend type scenario, and they're getting together with the family for the first time. Would you then still unleash it with someone?
Yeah.
Wow.
They'll flush the first time, but when they have to pay $200 or $300 because there's 30 people at the house, they stop flushing.
Candace, do you survive that? Do you walk out of that 200 short, having witnessed all this, and think, this is the guy for me still?
No.
I think I think at that point you're paying $200 for a clean break from this guy for the rest of your life. Yeah,
that's the greatest thing I've ever heard on an FM radio frequency.
Congratulations, Jeff. You've rendered us pretty darn near close to speechless.
Well, that's good. That's what I like to hear.
Wow. Thanks for the call, brother.
Yeah.
I don't want to know the backstory.
Right?
I don't want to know the backstory. I don't want to know what happens to future generations. All I can say is our AI overlords can't take us down soon enough. we get the benefit
this is how
of
we win, Steve.
We get to live at a time with clean, healthy plumbing, and this is what we choose to do. You know,
what is AI going to think when they become self-aware of this? That you're right, they're just going to push the button, whatever button ends it all, or maybe they just short circuit. Maybe it's too much for them to comprehend, and we end up winning as a result of this brave family.
I mean, just at least tell me it's a septic system. I mean, let's just get, just to really top it all off.
Of all the family traditions.
That is pretty out there. Speaking of potentially weird, gross things, hey, I just saw this story. Some archaeologists in Mount Vernon, Virginia, were digging around in the basement of Mount Vernon, George Washington's home, as they do. And a dude was digging around with his trowel, and he felt he saw what looked like the mouth of a glass bottle. And he's like, huh. And so very carefully working his trowel, and then he starts to see the neck of the bottle. And he's not thinking much about it because they find bottles all the time underground, pieces of bottles. The more he digs, the more he realizes, it's a fully intact bottle, getting larger and larger. He puts his finger into the mouth of the bottle because he's thinking he might wiggle it loose. But when he pulls his finger back out, it's wet. And he's like, wait a minute, what is in there? Completely full of liquid. They find 2 entirely intact bottles in the basement of George Washington's home that had been filled with cherries from 1790. And the cherries, so they've been buried for some of these.
Cut that tree down. I thought he chopped that down. But anyway,
you would have thought whole. They said they are entirely whole, recognizable cherries. It smelled like cherry blossoms in the bottle. So they pulled these things out, and they're like, for archaeologists, it's like a time capsule. They're saying these cherries were probably picked in the 1770s and then stored for future use. But then sadly, a vaporous apparition appeared from the second bottle, and it killed all the archaeologists. But for a minute there, they were pretty excited about it because they literally found some cherries that were put in that bottle, most likely by George and or Martha Washington.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Well, that's pretty. And the fact that it still had cherry qualities to it, probably not. Yeah. Something you could consume, but that it smelled like cherries and still had moisture in it. Yeah.
And some of them were still wholly formed cherries. That's just amazing to me. That's like when I read about, they find giant sea tortoise died, and they're like, well, it was probably born in 1760. And I'm just like, wait, things been roaming in the ocean for almost 300 years?
Yeah.
Like there's an animal around who was around for, the War of 1812. He was still kicking back then.
Yeah, you'll find some of those trees out there, too. Now, you're talking about a living organism. Well, obviously, a tree is a living, but a conscience.
Yeah.
But anyway, when you think about that, you head out to the Sierras or somewhere in the Rockies, and you're looking at northern Minnesota. They've got some trees up there that were seedlings before Minnesota was a state. They've seen it all, man. Been around a while.
They certainly have. Speaking of seeing it all, there's a new show on Netflix called Baby Reindeer.
Oh, yeah. I can't decide if I want to watch it or not.
Give me the pitch.
We watched the whole thing, if you want to know. Baby Reindeer is based on a true story. A guy in England, he's a comedian, trying to make it as a stand-up comedian, and he's working at a pub to have a job because he has to make money because he's not making money in comedy. And a woman comes in who he feels some sympathy for. She's having a hard day. He gives her a cup of tea. And next thing you know, she starts to stalk him. She's obsessed with him and harasses him. And again, this is a real story from the guy who's the star of this show, wrote this entire series. And he plays a version of himself. In real life, for 4.5 years, this woman was sending him hundreds of emails every day. And continually.
For giving her a cup of tea?
That's where it started. I mean, she's obviously not well. And it just continues and rolls and rolls. And then at some point when you're watching the show, you're thinking, what is wrong with this guy? Why doesn't he just put an end to this? Why is he? Because sometimes you're like, what is he enjoying her attention? And then you realize he is. And then the show goes into, there's a lot of times when you're watching a character in a movie and you're like, what's wrong with this dude? Well, then it explains in very vivid detail what's wrong with this dude. He's had his own issues over the years, and it's a tough watch, especially knowing it's a true story. But it's riveting, and it's odd, and all of it is unexpected. And for that reason, I'd recommend it. I mean, there are probably going to be moments in it where you go, I can't watch this. It's too weird. It's too creepy. It's too unbelievable. But it is all real, and it's unlike anything I've seen in a long time. Like we kept saying, like, I don't want to watch this anymore. Okay, start the next episode. We just cranked out like whatever, 8 episodes or 10 episodes over a few days.
All right, I'm really focusing and obsessing on the name Baby Reindeers. Should I quit doing that?
Yeah. Just okay. It'll all questions will be answered.
All right,
soon enough.
Even the baby reindeer question.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
If you're wondering why.
Well, but I am wondering why. Yeah.
We were talking about it the other day. I mean, just after we had seen it, and we're talking about it. And as funny as it sounds to say this, I had a couple stalkers back in the day, in the 90s.
Yeah.
3. Really, but 2 of them got kind of had to deal with it, like had to kind of
restraining
look
order,
out.
Steve.
And back in the 90s when somebody could find out where you lived, that they were working hard. There was no internet.
Right.
Like how do you go to a town and figure out where someone lives in 1994? I've never quite understood that one.
Right, that required some sort of deceit. That was almost like sleuthing, like a detective would do. You had to go through some garbage. You had to knock on some doors. You had to stop by perhaps where this person worked or used to work and misrepresent yourself. Real stalker stuff, not creeping. There's creeping on the internet. A lot of people are guilty of creeping.
Sure.
That's a whole different thing. There's stalking and creeping, and you're talking about stalking.
So what's creeping? Where you just check someone's Facebook page and maybe Google for images and then try to figure out who their new boyfriend is?
I'd be creeping.
You'd be creeping?
Yep.
Creeping. Some people take they blur that creeping thing. It's a little like I've had people create fake Facebook or social media accounts to friend me. Knowing that we're not friends anymore, but now they can be friends through someone else and then spy on my page. That's kind of in that creeping. I wouldn't put it quite in the stalking. It's fairly harmless, but stalking that requires some contact, some footwork, and them keeping an eyeball on you.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny. I haven't been on. I've never gone on a date with somebody that I had to Google or look up. I mean, I've been in a relationship since long before the internet. And so I can't imagine,
it's all there.
You meet somebody and then you go home and figure out, let's see what I can find out about that person, in that way. I've never experienced it.
I got to a point where I was like, now you're going to Google me. Keep in mind that the internet's greatly exaggerated.
Yeah,
kind of like morning radio can be greatly exaggerated. And all I would say is give me a chance. So I had to talk my way into, and I can't tell you how many times, on Match.com. So what do you do for a living? Boy, I work in media. Oh, what do you do in media? I work in radio. What do you do in radio? God, I work for a morning show. What morning show do you work for? The KQRS morning show. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? They'll probably get back to me tomorrow, maybe. But just they disappear.
I've had a million conversations. Oh, what do you do? I'm a musician, drummer. Oh yeah. What, you in a band? Yeah. Oh, what's the band called? And then it's like, oh, well, they're either gonna care or they won't, and you just whatever that story is. And if I used to in the old day, Black Crowes, and they'd either be like, excited or, geez, yeah, and I'd be like, what? Like, I don't like. It's somewhat. This is like this is like a guy you're sitting next to on a plane, or it's like someone, and people would feel the need to go, yeah, sorry, I just don't like I don't like your music. And my answer is always the same, which is, okay, what do I care? That's fine. But I was always struck by people that felt the need to say that. I don't care either way. I don't think I do. I guess thanks for your honesty. It was always the weirdest thing. But then, of course, nothing worse than talking to somebody who, this is mid-'90s at the height of the bands, commercial, blah, blah, blah. And there'd be someone, in their 20s, and they'd be like, what's the band? No, I've never heard of you. And I'd be like, damn, I thought we were getting somewhere.
Yeah. You've probably morphed into that because I get this on the KQ Morning Show, and I think you've raised my dad loves your band. My dad loves your morning. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The Candace, you getting that?
Very, very, very memorably, 1996, Denver, Colorado, at a strip club. Are you guys in a band? Girl dancing on the stage. Yeah. What's the band called? The Black Crowes. Oh my God, my mom loves you guys. and you're just like, we're only 4 records in, and we're already a stripper's mom's favorite band. Oh crap! The hell? Yeah, that was, and that really was every one of us just the shared glance, and then it's like, all right, let's get out of here. We don't need to stay.
Maybe you contributed to that woman being on stage. Maybe the fact that her mother liked your music. I don't know. I don't want to go. I don't want to try and connect those dots. Never mind.
No, that would have required that girl to be no older than 6. So
okay,
no,
this
was a fully legal adult woman. But she was just kind of like, I like Smashing Pumpkins. You're old music, Black Crowes. That guy's older than we are.
Exactly.
All these damn genres,
right?
Radio formats switch, and we get left behind on 80s Island. We're from the 90s, I swear. It was one of those, just laughing at how bizarre the world is. Oh my God, my mom loves you guys. Yeah, there's literally nothing you can say to a young rock band to
When's
make
your mom
them
dancing.
Yeah, really. When's her shift? Jeez, nuts. All right, why don't we look back? It is April 22nd, and on this day in 1954, which is what? Not 60, 70 years ago today, the 24-second shot clock was adopted by the NBA. A guy by the name of Daniel Biasone, he was the owner and founder of the Syracuse Nationals. They later became the Philadelphia 76ers. He came up with the shot clock. He's tired of watching guys stand around and try to keep the ball out of George Mikan's hand. Yeah. Basically. Yeah, George Mikan was so dominant, the Fort Wayne Pistons just never shot so they could beat a team with George Mikan because they didn't want him to get the ball. Anyway, so this is what he did. He looked at the 48-minute game and said, well, what's the average number of shots in a game from the previous 3 seasons? They were keeping stats. He figured it out. The number was 120, 48 minutes a game. Let's see. How many seconds in a game? 2880. How many shots? 120. Divide the 2. The answer is 24. 24-second shot clock. Boom. Saved the game of basketball. It literally put the NBA on the map. It was going nowhere until the shot clock. So for this one guy, thank you, brother, because I love me some NBA, and that wouldn't be the case if somebody hadn't come up with that clock.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.